Welcome. Hello, everybody. It's me, Hank, episode 216 of the Winners and Losers Show. I'm your host, Hank Thompson. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, my God. What a big day. We've got a lot of news to talk about. We've got a huge, already huge, but possibly way huger update to the Cenk Uyghur project. That's not what it's called. It's called the Tell the Truth Cenk. It's right there on screen. I'm a bit overstimulated already. Cenk was on Jubilee, which came out a few weeks ago. It makes the rounds. Jubilee's a huge show, so we're gonna take. And the teaser dropped, and apparently they bring up the union busting, which is fascinating. Who knew someone would eventually ask Cenk Uyghur to his face about the union busting? So we're going to look at that live. I have not watched it yet. So only the teaser is out. I haven't seen it. I've been putting it off for, I've really been wanting to, but I've been waiting to do it so you can watch me react to it live. So we're going to get to that. That's going to be the heart of this episode. I should probably just do that right away. I'll put links in the description and, time codes and stuff on YouTube. So huge deal. Oh God, I have so many thoughts. I have so much to say. For those that don't know, if you're just checking this out, I was very closely involved with starting TYT Union, and I'm making a documentary about the entire thing called Tell the Truth Cenk. A documentary about work, union busting, a documentary about consent, leverage, fairness, democracy, unions, union busting. It's a very long project. It's taken forever and driven me absolutely bonkers. it's such a hard thing to do, especially this weird thing. We'll get into that again, but just so you know, like I'm not a nobody in this story. My working conditions were central to why we started the union in 2019. There was a previous effort that stalled out, so I'm not claiming to be central to that part, but I know the people who did. And the story Cenk told his audience was not true. So Cenk has not been honest about why a union started at his company. Thus, the title of the film. Wouldn't it be weird if he did tell the truth and I still made a documentary called Tell a Lie, Cenk? What it is. Okay, so yeah, thanks for coming back and clicking on it. This thing is, my mic stand is goofy. So usually I do some personal rambling and maybe some promotional shit at the beginning. I'm a bad podcaster. I've been doing it since 2010. And so I'm a perfect example of why persistence is rewarded, which is why I have no rewards, because I take breaks. I'm inconsistent. I'm terrible at it. A long old weird story that is still continuing today. So, but I appreciate anybody who likes, subscribes, supports, throws in on Patreon. There's links in the description if you want to support the project. It's a big, weird, messy thing. I'm in a bit of a rough mental space these last several decades, but kind of tough times here. Possibly moving back to Illinois within the next few months. So for financial reasons, and so things are in a tough space. But I'm trying. I struggle with that. Don't feed the bad wolf, feed the good wolf thing. I struggle to manifest the things I want. I think that's kind of BS, but I also believe that mentality has a lot to do with how you're able to summon motivation, and I'm just constantly battling the energy demons in my brain. The batteries drain, and they drain for predictable and unpredictable reasons that that fuck it all up. So we're gonna look at Trump's palace. He's gonna expand the White House. Just a couple of pictures, nothing much. Pete Buttigieg said some stupid bullshit, and I'm gonna assign myself the defending America from Pete Buttigieg, because just because the motherfucker puts on a mustache doesn't mean that you should believe him. Okay, my mustache fell out. I still have like part of I've gotten rid of it because I was starting to look like I had a Hitler mustache when I would behind this microphone thing. But so now I'm no mustache guy. I'm just, and I have the worst face for it. Just pisses me off. Just why can't so? Yeah. And a little bit about Pod Save America. To look at some stuff regarding accountability for powerful people. Not that they're defending. Well, we can get into that. I don't think they're okay. So, but I have thoughts about. Should people? Okay. Well, all right. So, yes. Okay. God damn it! Don't make this a long one, Hank. You stupid asshole. So first, I want to say huge gratitude to my previous two guests, three guests actually. Dan Friesen. Wow, look, it's all queued up here. Let's go full screen. Let's go full. Let's click on a button here. Look at that. Look at that. And so yeah, I've had a few guests on lately, which I think these conversations were really interesting. Wow, I literally only have like 3 shirts that I'm not too fat to wear. One of them's a hoodie. Um, but Jordan Brady is just on the show in the previous episode. Super nice dude, man. I really grateful to run into him. He's a podcaster, but that's like his like public thing. He made a documentary called I Am Comic and I Am Road Comic, as well as I Am Battle Comic, which were at least the first two when I was doing stand up were a big deal to me and other comedians to see, especially I Am Comic, because I think that came out in like 2014 or something. But he's a very successful commercial film director, and he's a former stand up comedian, and he's in the DGA, the Directors Guild, and I think maybe another guild or union. So he's had a nice long career. And I ran into him at a grocery store, and I recognized him, and I was like, "That guy uses this podcast," and so I went up and talked to him. My trademark gumption kicked in, and I had a fantastic conversation with the poor bastard. And I don't think I had showered. It had probably been a little while, actually. I wonder if I stunk. I want to become friends with him to a degree that I can ask him if he smelled my BO during our first encounter. And it was an encounter. I approached him like a autistic bear rambling out of the woods, his belly full of salmon eggs, totally energized. But that's called bear masking. No, okay. So, but awesome guy. What an honor to talk to him too, because he does like a professional commercial filmmaking and documentaries and uh, uh, coaching and like retreats, and like he's very expensive to talk to. He's a very nice guy that he didn't charge. Not that I would. I wish I could pay people that came on the show. To be honest, I do harbor fantasies of doing some woodworking and then giving like a gift to my guests. Here's a little woodworking item I made. Doesn't that sound like that would be a nice guy, like a nice woodworking, like a fun way to be a guy doing a podcast? I agree. Scott Bennett, awesome dude. TikTok sensation. No, but he does really fantastic, like historical explainers about economics and capitalism. And we had a fantastic conversation. Super nice dude. My first stranger, although Jordan Brady was a stranger too, but that's good. But we met at the grocery store where I accosted him. But I reached out to Scott through TikTok, and then we emailed, and he was nice enough to come on the show. So awesome dude. I'm gonna persuade him into Hanksism. I've decided to try to become the next Karl Marx, but like the inverted kind. Like I'm tall and I can't grow a beard. How tall is Karl Marx? He looks like he was a short guy. I can't tell. He's always sitting. You know you have a good life when you're always sitting, which is why I want to be a podcaster and play video games. My buddy Dan, Knowledge Fight, excellent podcast. You've probably heard of it. He and I did stand-up comedy for several years back in Chicago. Otherwise, he wouldn't text me back if I invited him on the show. So it's the second time he's come on Winners and Losers, and always fun to catch up with Dan. And I'm so thrilled for his success. If you're not familiar with Knowledge Fight, they cover Alex Jones and the Alex Jones world. But the best way to understand them is if you're familiar with Star Trek lore. 7 of 9, introduced in season 4 of Voyager, of Star Trek Voyager, maybe season 5, but you know who 7 of 9 is. She's the hot lady with the skin onesie, and she's got the metal on her eyes, and she's a robot. She's a former Borg. She was kidnapped by the Borg as a little girl because, well, I guess kidnapped is probably the right word, but yeah, she got assimilated at a very young age. Thus, she was eventually rescued by the intrepid crew of Star Trek Voyager, led by Captain Catherine Janeway. Yes, sorry, new people. This is how this podcast goes. Deal with it. And little Annika Hansen, that 7 of 9's birth name, was a little girl. She had parents who were scientists who studied the Borg. Mom and Dad Hansen was their names. I think they do have names, but they were two like researchers who were the first Federation science people. They weren't like military types. I wish the new Star Treks would lean into a lot of like I love the hokey science stuff and like the kind of like when they play cards together. That's always fun. But anyway, dude, don't get me started on a new Trek. I got a lot to fucking say about. Anyway, 7 of 9's parents fucked up. They weren't sure what they were studying. They were like researchers. And so they had a little ship and they had their little girl with them. And they got caught. They got turned into Borg too, along with their little baby girl who was like 5 or 6 or 7. You know, it's a very sad age to get caught, even worse than every other age, I guess. But Why am I talking about this? Because Dan and his co-host Jordan are the researchers who study the Borg, and Alex Jones is the Borg. They are Seven of Nine's parents, is what I'm trying to say. That's who I think of when I think of Knowledge Fight. Like I even had some Lord of the Rings edited into the video for some reason. Yeah, so uh, that's that. It took forever to get to that, but I do think that's a good metaphor for what they do. They sort of watch the Alex Jones universe and study it and report back what they find. And if they breed, which I hope they don't, no offense, guys, but then their baby will become a hot Borg lady on a successful TV show, maybe. Actually, you guys should have a baby. Okay, let's keep going. So check out those last interviews. Those are a while back. Of course, I keep meaning to try to do it super consistently, and I also keep threatening to get on TikTok and be a guy who goes, "Oh, you know what fucking sucks about capitalism is this bullshit." Hey, I want to tell you guys about my documentary about the Young Turk. Like, I think I could do that. Honestly, I feel like I probably would do much better on TikTok talking for 2 minutes than on YouTube, where it takes me hours to make a goddamn video and 20 minutes just to get to the goddamn point. So I probably will. Honestly, I should. Why am I not doing that? Every day I think about it. But I have actually been very busy. So I've been working on some paid stuff, which is a big help, and that's been chewing up a ton of energy. It's for a documentary I'm very proud to be a part of, but it's also like it's licensing work, and it's I'm trying not it yeah, I hate it. You know, not supposed to say. I I I I hate work I like. Let me just put it that way, okay? I don't like doing anything at all ever. That's not true, actually. I can only feel good when I'm doing stuff. But yeah, but it's like stuff I'm not naturally not inclined to. I'm inclined to be tedious, but I'm not inclined for this to be a thing that's good for me. It sucks, but I'm thrilled to be part of it. I'll tell you about it someday. It'll come up. But so that's been keeping me kind of busy and exhausted, and as well as it's nowhere near enough hours to like solve my money problems. But I'm still grateful to be part of this thing. Anyway, yeah, that and launching a new YouTube channel. Let's get over to this. Look at this, Torchlighter. Everybody, look at 5 subscribers. Let's get this up to 10. Come on, you're already on YouTube. Go over to Torchlighter. It's Torchlighter Films. Look in the description. I don't really know why I did this, other than I've been persuaded that mashing all my output into one channel called Winners and Losers might not be good Twitter or sorry, good posting and algorithm strategy, just good YouTube stuff. I want to, and I also make a lot of clips that I put on Twitter, and BlueSky here and there, and sometimes those go viral. Kind of viral for me is like 100 retweeted, you know, but like sometimes those get decent attention, and I put a lot of work into that stuff, and I thought maybe I could do something where I could post those. And so this is sort of a catch-all, although I don't really, it's going to evolve. So it's going to be like mini documentaries. I have it up here, highlights, footage, shorts, mini docs, outtakes. I thought of another one I want to add from the dungeon floor. I like the name Torchlighter. I put a lot of work into making this little blue. See how nice that little blue glow is back there? It took a lot of subtlety, or I thought subtle would come through, but subtle didn't. I just had to make it really like kind of bright blue in it, but I think it looks really cool now. I haven't updated this graphic at the top yet. So I've posted 3 videos. One of them is Andrew Cuomo making, or not making fun of, impersonating Zoran Mandani. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Andrew Cuomo.
Fuck you, Andrew.
And unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know that the Democratic primary did not go the way I had hoped. But as my grandfather...
What the fuck? Did I do a left-right fuck up on this one? Hold on. Hold on.
They used to say when...
Oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm so embarrassed. I actually did. So in video editing, I must not have made it mono. Damn it. I added clown music to it. I had to put in my left earbud to hear it. That sucks. That's annoying. Why did I mess it up so bad? So when you do a left-right, when you do a stereo export, it doesn't even out your thing. I just didn't. Why did I? Okay. Well, or unless maybe just the plugging. That got 700 plus views, which first post on a channel that no one's there with literally nothing is an incredibly good video. This next video here, I'd love it if you went and watched it. I put 4 or 5 days of editing into this, completely against my hope of doing kind of like sort of leaning hard into my talent as a storyteller and a documentarian and a professional video editor with all kinds of experience who is really easy and fun to work with. I'm definitely not at all kind of a psycho who definitely not at all. If you need to collab, let's collab. Come on, I'm so desperate. I'm so fucking desperate. I'll eat your hair. Do you have hair? I'm hungry. No, look at my face. Do I look hungry? I am actually. Um, I'm trying to lose weight. I hurt my back. Yeah. The doctor said it was because I'm a fat fuck. No, I didn't go to the doctor. Are you kidding? I don't have a doc. But I do gotta lose weight. So I want to make like 2-minute quickies, 3-4 minutes most. Not too bad. Find some interesting points, maybe, because I do this a lot where I watch a podcast of someone, like I think maybe I'll do something maybe even about this Pod Save America thing, and then or various topics that are happening. Put a little bit of editing work into it, like a bit more polished than you'd normally see, but don't overwhelm myself. Come up with kind of a production workflow where I can kind of knock one out in like 4 hours, which isn't too bad. With like change the mindset. My least favorite part of doing a work like this is posting it at the end. I just despise. It just is so miserable. But if you can kind of like fold that process into the start of the process, like you know what I mean. It's more like, in other words, get the thumbnail out of the video / title it before or even during the earlier phase. It's a lot easier to then finish it, because by the time you're done editing something, you're just like, get it out of me, get this wicked baby out of me. And no one's ever had a more wicked baby than me with this TYT documentary. That's for fucking sure. I really need help paying back some the debt I took on to finance it, as well as just get me enough stress relief to finish the fucking thing so I can squirt this horrible baby into the cold river outside Gotham Waterworks, where they keep their abandoned penguins who are good at raising babies. That's the plot of one of the Batman movies. So I decided to have a big old baby, though, instead of a frickin' 4-minute, because I'm starting a new channel. I'm like, how do I do this? It's also going to be clips from this, so maybe from this podcast will end up on here. I don't know. Definitely stuff where I am interviewed on some shows. I went on the Letter Hack, another show I did, Punch Up Pod, Leftist Mafia. Probably put my Majority Report phone call up on Torchlighter. So stuff related to the documentary. And so that's going to be kind of the waterfall that's going to start flowing here. But ultimately, when the final version of Tell the Truth, Cenk comes out, in fact, you see I just posted here the trailer for Tell the Truth, Cenk, so that I have it on Torchlighter. 2 minutes of union busting hell. I don't know if that's good. Maybe I should. I did that impulsively. Forgot to change it. I'm sweating like a fucking pig, man. It's the hottest part of the day, and I have my window closed, so I have 2 fans on me. But oh well. Ultimately, once Tell the Truth, Cenk is finally finished and it's polished up the way I hope, and it looks great and it sounds great and everything about it, and we've had some interviews and I've been on some shows and I got to talk to some people, and someone actually went to Cenk and talked to him and said, "Hey, well, so what's up with all this evidence that you did union busting?" And this guy says that here's why. Is that true? And then he goes, Cenk is actually in charge of how this movie ends. That's one of the things people. Let me not go off on this too much. I'll save that. We're going to get back. That Torchlighter becomes a home for other stuff. I don't want it to just only be TYT shit. It's going to be a lot of TYT stuff for now, probably, but other things from the world that I pay attention to. I can take parts and clips from other shows and make little things. And so one of those was this big South Park premiere that you guys all, I'm sure, already are familiar with, last week. Season 27, episode 1. This thing made such a big commotion. I went and I screen recorded a whole bunch of different shows, variety of ideological viewpoints, although I think I could refine how that works or maybe even randomize it or something. Although that's not necessarily that I want to be completely quote unquote fair. I want to be good faith, but there's always an editorialization to how you choose things. But I do think it's interesting to see the same thing. It's kind of repetitive. It models a little bit of some of the techniques they use in Tell the Truth, Cenk, of letting the montage, like this, particularly the Joe Rogan, the ethical dark web piece of Tell the Truth, Cenk, where it's a bunch of different people talking about the same story, and you sort of hear the story told, but you hear it through different voices, and it's quick jumps, and it's not a ton of edit. It's a lot of work, but it's not fancy editing. The fancy editing, I would say, is the stuff you don't see. So let's just play this a little bit. And I would really love it if you're listening and you're watching. Go check out Torchlighter. Go support this stuff. Hit the like button and help me get up to 10 subscribers. Let's grow this little thing. It's gonna be part of the dungeon world that I'm trying to build with my whole project. And as well as possibly the tutorials and I might even be launching another podcast soon about art, creating animations and drawings and stuff, and doing motion graphics, etc. So we'll see this right here. Let's click play. Quit talking, Hank. South Park making the most of their free speech rights before it gets sued away from them.
The White House is firing back at Comedy Central.
So sorry, really interesting. I just have to note here at upper left corner. Okay, it goes away. There was a little bug in the upper left corner that said altered or synthetic content, and I had not clicked on that. When you post it on YouTube, it has this whole stuff. I can't show you. I don't think YouTube Terms of Service wants me to show you that part of it, but it asks is anything and it's altered, and I thought maybe I should say yes because yes, definitely, but I didn't do the altering. Wasn't quite sure how I should have done that, but I figured since this is like because this video has Trump nude as AI, and that just sounded like he's like a bad guy in an 80s movie, which he's the bad guy in all of the movies now. Talk about living a villain life, just like, is there anything more super villainy than the Republican Party other than the Democratic Party? I mean, come on. But seriously, taunting other countries to invade them. Guy's got nukes. It's nuts. Real Arkham, real Batman stuff going on with this world, and sadly, it's worse than anything they could come up with in the Batman. If only Trump were the Joker, he wouldn't. Okay, losing track. So they added that, which I think is interesting because it does have AI in it. So I guess I'll have to be more upfront. I don't know why. I don't know. Okay, let's keep going. So it opened with me talking just a little bit. That was actually the exact tweet that I wrote that did well. 2000. It got like a lot of people liked it, so I just kept the text, and then we get into it here. Let's start over. South Park making the most of their free speech rights before it gets sued away from them.
The White House is firing back at Comedy Central South Park after the season premiere.
South Park's season premiere was one for the history books.
The episode Wednesday included a scene showing President Trump lying in bed with Satan. Satan.
I'm not in the mood right now.
It was amazing, it was brutal, and I fucking love these guys for their balls.
Season 27's premiere, Sermon on the Mount, is, without question, the most insane thing South Park has ever done.
They've been talking about how they need a liberal Joe Rogan forever.
Did you see the South Park episode?
Which one?
They did a Donald Trump one with Satan.
No.
It's fucking hilarious.
That episode aired one day before the FCC finally approved the Paramount Skydance merger.
It's just, I love having a good pop culture story to talk about, especially one that's as topical as this. What do you think?
I think Matt and Trey just wanted to remind us, they truly do not give a single fuck.
They don't give a fuck, dude.
No.
They haven't given a fuck since the beginning, and it's the greatest show of all time.
Yeah.
When it gets bleak out there and when people are being cowards, it is a real shot in the arm to see the South Park people being like, absolutely not.
Totally. Like, repeatedly referring to the fact that Trump's an insecure little bitch who will sue you if you ever fucking disagree with him.
You also very often get to see a depiction of Donald Trump's fully nude, tiny penis, which, look, this is an artistic interpretation of his genitalia.
Which featured a running, very graphic, very hilarious joke about Trump having a teeny tiny penis.
He has a tiny penis, and also his tiny penis speaks to him.
It's very, very funny. A tiny little Donald Trump penis with cartoon eyes on the end of it says, "I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message."
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I endorse this message.
Like, even blurred out, it's the most, or mosaiced out, it's the most horrifying. Have you ever seen more offensive pixels in your life?
Trump. His penis is teeny tiny.
Donald Trump. His penis is teeny tiny.
Yeah. Repeatedly alluding to his tiny.
So, like, that was Tim Miller from the Bulwark. You got Kyle Klinsky. There's Tim Pool. There's two channels I hadn't heard of. One called Cellos. One called Johnny 2 Cellos, and another one called Blooms. But here.
Donald Trump.
So, and I'm not saying this to call out Tim Miller, but one thing I noticed doing this kind of work, and this is actually sort of among the kind of small tributaries of the TYT project, because that's about misinformation and how knowledge and information, when you know the truth about something and how you see that, from my perspective, I watched this entire story get completely spun into something that was not true at all. So, but there's a lot of innocent misinformation, and it's telephone game kind of stuff. You hear something, you tell someone else, you tell them, they tell someone else. Is telephone game even a reference anybody gets anymore, other than my very old audience? But like this here, Tim Miller on the Bulwark, he added Donald Trump. The guy doesn't say Donald Trump in the film. This is sort of like how eyewitnesses are not great, reliable, or we've overweighted them in courtrooms testimony and stuff. And I'm not saying this to call him out. This is a very mild, very innocent version of it. But there's a lot of this in this whole thing where people say, yeah, he says this, or they talk about it, and it's not actually what it was. But like the spirit is correct, or it's obviously coming from good faith. People don't misinform on purpose. There is a version where they do misinform on purpose. We're going to be talking about Cenk Uygur later. But yeah, I don't know. That was one of those little moments here. We'll just back it up so you can hear it, what I just explained. Sorry about the imagery. I should have blocked those nipples.
Trump. His penis is teeny tiny.
Donald Trump. His penis is teeny tiny.
Yeah. Repeatedly alluding to his tiny little dick.
There's no jokes. Now, to be fair, there are jokes, but they're not about Trump. It's just they show a naked cartoon Trump, and everyone keeps saying he has a tiny penis. And then he goes, come on, I'm going to sue you, gang. Yeah.
How could they be so mean to Donald Trump? And they are vicious.
It is brutal.
It gets worse. The plot of the episode, short version.
It's all about the death of wokeness and the death of political correctness.
The boys at South Park are very confused because...
Right. So I gotta tighten that up. Probably that was 2 minutes something. But this whole thing is 17 minutes long. So it gets into all these different reactions and kind of goes through it. Then we get to a part where this is like the middle bit where I talk again. We were visited by me again. I don't know if I should call this a documentary or a mini doc. It's a mashup. It's a montage. I have to come up with a way of explaining this because it's kind of its own thing. I think documentary is fair. I've seen things called documentaries that weren't this much of a documentary, but like my presence then comes in. This is like my narrator voice, which I just kind of like being. I like being the narrator guy.
Shake around a tiny wiener and try to bang Satan. It was literally just Saddam Hussein.
I think I was accused of that in 7th grade of having a tiny wiener and trying to bang Satan too.
Music comes back. Slow pacing. The episode ignited a firestorm of activity for its boldness and relevance to our current political moment.
It's Matt Stone and Trey Parker, everybody. Come on.
Appearing at Comic-Con the next day, South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone expressed remorse for their actions.
Did you anticipate the reaction today? Have you been following it? What do you make of it?
We're terribly sorry.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Besides orange pilling Satan every night, the bigger picture took shape.
And that is the definition of blowback.
And the whole point of the episode is to capture the vibe shift.
People say they owe the president nothing. We aren't going to be told what to do.
So yes, cutaways to South Park. Heather Cox Richardson is in it, which is great. Where else can you go to get Heather Cox Richardson and Joe Rogan in the same video? Come on, everybody! Torchlighter Films on YouTube. Look in the description. And we have Kat Abou-Ghazala is in it. I just wanted to give her. She gets a nice little hit at the end. Sam Cedar makes the kind of point, along with a few others, about authoritarianism rising. Dave Rubin says something horrible because he's a piece of shit. Fuck Dave Rubin. Kat Abou-Ghazala is running for Congress in Illinois. Everybody should support her. It would be a good person to have in the government. Here's her at the end.
Administration, but plenty of other, governments and politicians that try to consolidate power. When you cave once, that never really saves you. And so I think, Matt Stone and Trey Parker are setting an example, and that rocks. Good for them.
I mean, you can pay me now, or you can pay me later. It's, you say that was Midas, I was correct. It's from oil filters from the 1970s.
But Mika's work husband is correct.
That slogan was not Midas Automotive.
So then it's like 20 minutes about the slogans that Fram oil filters used. No, obviously not. But I did include a just, I felt like it needed that completely random aside about oil filter companies' slogans. But it ends with an important point about freedom.
President's tiny little weak, weird, stinky penis. It has tormented him, everyone he raped and assaulted, and now haunts us all. Freedom is not just about what you can do, it's about what you shouldn't have to do. And one of those, like clearing political statements or images from your phone before crossing a border, is think about the president's fucking dick.
Settle. Breathe. Slow. Torchlighter. See? It's not going to be hurry up and get it over with type of stuff. It should be. If I was smart, I would do that. And I probably will end up doing some of that. But I like documentaries. I like things like this that feel safe to breathe. A little bit of pacing changes. You can go for a little bit and then slow. One of my biggest annoyances, I have other things, such as the fact that my parents are going to die. Just because it's going to stress me the fuck out. Couldn't we have gotten that over with already? Come on, goddamn. But video essay format is often very like very little tempo changing. Sometimes even when they make great points, it's not. I'm not saying that I do it better, but I appreciate when there's those something slow down, like settle. But you also have to be very careful that you don't mess it up because it can come off as indulgent, just like my podcast is. So please go check out Torchlighter Films. I'm really working my ass off to try to do things here. It's going to be a part of the winners and losers, set system of orbital dynamic system. Trying to do space talk there. Speaking of which, Suck Professor, if you're looking for my voice, even if you're not into video games, although I do a lot. This is me playing a video game. This game, Valheim. I've been posting. I've done a hell of a lot of. Geez, something just popped up my throat. Suck Professor's got 7,000 YouTube subscribers. It went pretty well for a little while there when we were doing these shot by shot breakdown videos. I did a lot of video game stuff. It's kind of how I taught myself how to do video editing, is doing all this work on Suck Professor over the years. So it goes back pretty far. But I've been posting me playing this game, Valheim. And there's a few people that have already made the jump from winners and losers that are talking on there occasionally. Very low views, but they're easy to make. They're easy to upload. They're easy to make thumbnails for. It's a very straightforward naming conventions. It doesn't come with the energy spend that it takes to do the winners and losers stuff. So go have a look. And plus I do sometimes I do like fun thumbnails, like, the little Hank character inside the, up to his belly and water and stuff like that. So please go have a look over at Suck Professor. What else do I got here? Okay. Yeah, we're going to get to it. Vanguard cover, Cenk doing. That's so funny. Their thumbnail is so great there. Yeah, so we're going to get to that real soon. All right, let's try to hurry up through these next couple. Donald Trump is going to get the pedophile bribe palace he's always wanted. He's going to turn the White House into Mar-a-Lago. This has just come out today. Breaking. Press secretary announces the construction of a new 90,000 square foot ballroom at the White House, with construction to begin in September. Aren't you glad you're paying your taxes there, everybody? We're not even sure if we're paying for it. Maybe probably some foreign bribe thing is paying for it. But let's be honest, they don't. It's like we can't even bribe our own government to provide us with the most basic services. We're not even allowed to do that. We're just held hostage and have to pay taxes for fucking bullshit like this so that we can send bombs to genocidal maniacs all over the world and support capitalist extraction everywhere the United States, sticks its grubby demon mitts. But one of those is this. Let's look at these images here. I can't scroll it up. Sorry about that. McCreary Architects. I gotta wonder. This actually looks computer generated. It feels AI-ish, but it looks actually like it's a computer model thing. I can imagine architecture firms are probably already using pretty good computer. I don't know why I'm going off on this right now. I literally don't know, but My guess is that over the last like 5, 10, 15 years, they've been using like video game, like level building, modeling stuff to make architecture pitches, but I'm sure that's going to transition into AI too. That just makes sense, everything I just said. So I'm not sure where the original White House is. But it's a snowy scene. It's a little, the trees are white and the ground is white. We got the phallic. That thing should be bent over. Let's give me a break. America doesn't deserve a boner. That's the Washington Monument. It should be a limp, weak-ass little thing, because that's what we are. We're just run by savage monsters. Fucking country. So we're going to waste a bunch of money producing this ugly ballroom with these ornate, ugly-ass... Because, I think what Trump also experiences, beside his own vainglory, is visiting other countries, Middle Eastern palaces. Their modern, their construction is much more recent, I'm confident in saying, and they have tastes similar to his. And because I remember seeing video of him walking around, I'm like, wow. And they just gave him, I think, what was it, Qatar gave him a $400 million plane that the American taxpayer is going to have to spend like $1 billion renovating for safety. So pay your taxes, go to work, pay your taxes. This guy's he's mugging everybody, and and now we have to build his luxury palaces so that pedophiles and capitalists can kiss his ass while he grabs their wives' butts. Fuck this shit. This pisses me off. Here's another snowy scene. It's pretty ugly. Why do they do the white snow thing? What's going on? What look at this. It's just tacky gold spray painted ugly wood things. Ugh. So that's fun. Keep paying your taxes. Pete Buttigieg. I am the Pete Buttigieg Destroyer. Welcome everybody. This is the Pete Buttigieg Destroyer Hour. Just because a guy has a mustache doesn't mean he knows anything. And his mustache is hidden in his beard. He doesn't even have the dignity to shave his beard around his mustache. He's hiding his mustache. That's how much of a liar Pete Buttigieg is. He's a demon. He's a malevolent influence on the world. He will destroy us all if we let him anywhere near the halls of power. And he's already made inroads. Put on your level 14 cape. Put on your level 18 leather pauldrons. Put on your level 22 iron gauntlets. Let's go destroy this monster, okay? Okay? We can't let him win. The liberals are going to love him because he's everybody's son. Everybody wants him to be their son because he's better than your son. That's my theory. Where does Pete Buttigieg get his magic? Because he's better than your son. Who wouldn't want him as their son? My boy is the mayor of Indiana. Oh, my boy is running for president. Oh, look. Everybody thinks my boy is so smart. He lied and said he learned Norwegian so he could read a book. But your son never lied and said he learned Norwegian so they could read a book. I would adopt Pete Buttigieg myself so I could ground him in my dungeon. No, but this guy's dangerous. He's a bad person. He's only going to spew neoliberal nonsense. He's a climber. He's a careerist. He's exactly what we don't need more of. He's a shape-shifting fucking snake. So don't trust this Pete Buttigieg. And here's a good example. So off the heels of Zoran Mandani wrecking the place, attracting all kinds of enthusiasm and attention because his policies are sensible. He's a nice, charismatic, good guy. Obviously, there's already lefties calling shit out that he's doing, which is always going to be the case, and I love to see it. But Mamdani is, not playing the same game that they're playing, and he's getting amazing results. So what has the mainstream party learned? Well, we saw it in Torchlighter. We saw Andrew Cuomo just pretending to be a fucking this is my Mamdani impression. Look, right? We saw Andrew Cuomo. I couldn't have picked a worse spot. Jesus, Hank. Walking around shaking people's arms, trying to act like he's just a regular old man on the street. Doesn't even, oh God, right there. Doesn't even live in New York. Doesn't even, he said he's going to run away from New York if Mamdani wins. We're supposed to believe this piece of shit has anybody's best interests? Pete Buttigieg is the same thing. Which one is it right here? Right here we are. Trying to get wisdom from Mamdani's success. So here's what he has to say about it. Let's start with this guy's tweet. If Dems want lessons from Mamdani applicable across the country, quote, okay, this is just what Pete says. It's Less about the ideology and more about, okay, why am I reading a thing you're about to watch? He's on NPR. That's a tweet from Jeff Colton.
I think that he also, just as a matter of campaign strategy, was omnipresent. He was everywhere. He was going on podcasts. He was doing social media. And so I think a lot of more conventional political operatives didn't see him coming.
Andrew Cuomo had a more conventional media campaign.
For sure. And I think in many ways, he, in addition to the...
And much more conventional sexual harassment.
The moral disqualifications that went with his history. He just didn't... If anything, he reminded, I think, a lot of people of the status quo.
Yeah, because the status quo is politicians abusing their power to prevent any sort of tangible progress. Cuomo oversaw as governor, like, I don't know the name, I can't think of the name right now, but I know I'm confident enough to say it, that like this group of, it's like a formalized group of state representatives that were all Republicans, but they called themselves Democrats, and all they did was stop any kind of democratic progress. It was very explicit. But listen to what Pete Buttigieg says here. I want to just back this up a little bit.
Went with his history.
Wait, a little more here about the moral, just whatever he says.
The moral disqualifications that.
Except the Democratic Party endorsed him. I don't remember precisely. I think a few people distanced themselves because it was so bad, but the billionaires were behind the moral disqualification guy. The Democratic Party leadership has yet to endorse the guy who won the primary for the Democratic Party, Mamdani. People were lining up to support the moral disqualification guy because morality and questionable morality, and that's putting it kindly, is what Pete Buttigieg represents, because he represents the status quo and he represents capital. He represents bosses' interests, not improving your lot in life, not making it easier for you to have any way to get by. He might make occasional, it's easy in America to pretend like you give a shit about people because we're so far away from what we should be expecting that a guy who says something like, oh yeah, people should be able to go to work and come home and have a nice night. That sounds like a radical lefty kind of thing. That's because they get credit for stuff that we should be accepting as the default. And he plays on that a lot. But the moral disqualification guy is the guy that the establishment was hoping would win. That or the corruption guy, Eric Adams, who's got who's completely bought and paid for by the Trump administration, who let him go on charges so that he would allow them to do their immigration raids, the current mayor of New York. Dude's a total scoundrel. It's crazy, man. Let's go.
That went with his history. He just didn't... If anything, he reminded, I think, a lot of people of the status quo. So
the thing that Pete Buttigieg will ensure continues forever. I would take Pete Buttigieg over Kamala. I would take him over by, like he would be an improvement, but no. Horrible dude.
I think a lot of people are focused on the leftism, the ideological leftism, I think we shouldn't be so surprised that prevailed in a New York Democratic Party primary.
So he just dismisses leftism and things that people really responded to as, oh, that's just New York. That's just those extremists in New York.
But I think if my party wants to learn lessons from Mamdani's success that are portable to a place like Michigan, where I live, it's less about the ideology and more about the message discipline of focusing on what people care about.
Don't do any of that ugly leftism. That might make his donors slightly uncomfortable. The kind of leftism we have anywhere near even approaching in this country that's even possible wouldn't harm any of their donors. Sadly. Maybe taxes go up slightly. Their lives would still be grand and amazing. Maybe we'll pay for lunch for children. Oh no, the donors. Slightly more regulations. That's the stuff that we might achieve. Even like a public option, which is probably the most type of leftism we'll see in our lifetimes, unless we actually do pull a Mexico on the country with Claudia Sheinbaum. I feel kind of ignorant about that process. I want to learn more about it. It's one of those things that I have so much admiration for her from what I've seen and what I've learned. And she's incredibly popular, and she's a staunch lefty from what I understand. I'm not sure. She might even be a listener of Winners and Losers. Torchlighter.com. That's not at all the website. It's on nope. So, but his thing here, well, it's not really about that ideology, but if we want to win in Michigan, we got to do the mess. Like, and the thing is, he's not wrong. Mamdani played a great game. He had good technique, but people responded to his policies because life is going to fucking shit in this country, and it has been for a long time. And he represents the people that would keep it that way. But they'll call it progress because it's slightly better than what the Republicans will offer you. I think there are some substantial differences between the Democratic Republican Party too. I believe, especially on women's rights, for sure, is a big one for me. But don't fucking trust this guy. He's gonna steal the COVID depressed, the cognitive, the deflated, but bent cognition. I think I have it too because of the way I'm talking. Of all of our friends and our liberal buddies and our liberal friends and our slightly left of center parents and our slightly right of center parents, and he's gonna bamboozle them all. People aren't really good at detecting the bullshit, which is where I come in, the Pete Buttigieg destroyer. Okay, shave off your fucking beard, Pete. Be a real man.
And the tactical wisdom of getting out there and talking to everybody.
Oh, tactical wisdom. That is such a consultant phrase, isn't it? Well, good thing I've got some on this PowerPoint slide. We're gonna look at the tactical wisdom, and then it's like $16 million bill shows up, and they'll go out to lunch. Okay. Wow. Already into it. Okay, we're gonna. But this will probably be all right. Let's try to do this quickly. I'm not gonna. Okay, we'll try. I did that fairly quickly. Okay. Tommy Vitor, who actually is featured in the Torchlighter hit film Orange Pilled, right here. We see him. This is Tommy. He's the bald, blonde. He's nope. Let's get him here. I'll just play it, and then he'll show up. He's one of these guys. He's this guy. God damn it, Hank. What the fuck's wrong with you? How did I get to PBS NewsHour? I clicked on that jump button. Tommy Vitor of Pod Save America, along with John Favreau. I'm so embarrassed that I even know these guys' names. John Lovett. He's the funny one. He's a little sassy. He's a little sassy boy. And then there's some fourth guy. I don't know. He looks like Homer from don't tell me, George Clooney movie about running away from the cops. His name is Homer. You guys, he looks like this is not good podcasting. Homer. I think his actor's name is Homer anyway. He's kind of mean, talks like this. He's got one of these voices. Brother, where art thou? Okay, we haven't even seen Tommy Vitor here. Good God. Fucking shit. There. Okay, come on. Press until 5 seconds. Nope, that's the wrong guy. That's John. There he is. Okay. Oh, there he is. Okay, that's Tommy Vitor. Okay, looks like his barber is Doogie Howser. Why is that supposed to make sense? So these guys. Now I don't know their entire run in terms of the the support for Gaza. But they're like Democratic Party operatives. They were Obama employees for a long time, started Pod Save America, crooked media. They've made millions. They've got tons of money, huge audience. And so they've been kind of coming around. Again, I don't want to mischaracterize. I think one or two of them has been a bit more against it, at least willing to point some of the worst parts out, some of the rougher edges of it out over time. But overall, they're about messaging and tone. And so they were getting it. Sorry, I had to burp. They were getting into it. I saw one back and forth between Tommy and David Cleon, who's the dude who's on Twitter a bunch, who writes, seems to have reasonable takes. And that's what this was getting into was he wrote, tweeting, "I told you so" at people who change their mind about what's happening in Gaza does nothing to help the kids who are being starved to death. Welcome people into the tent, build a bigger coalition, and use it to force political change. So as the starvation, as the spines of Joe Biden's victims are pushing out of the skin of Benjamin Netanyahu's victims, as their hip bones and their elbows and the sharpness of 1-year-old's bones and 4-year-old and adults and all kinds of people who are turning into skin and bones and just a skeleton barely holding on to life. As images of those things are coming out much more, we're finally seeing people who previously didn't speak up or didn't say anything or might have shamed you for not, or were quiet, like I said, didn't speak up, or were in support of it, or made all the same bullshit excuses. We're finally seeing a turn. Not a big turn, not enough of a turn, but something of a turn, as you just can't ignore the absolute horror of what we're doing to those people. And so lefties, people who are generally correct before anybody else, which is why we're the least powerful cohort in the country, the more accurately and the more reasonably you can assess reality. I think some people can claim those terms who hold different ideological viewpoints, but most lefties are former conservatives, former liberals. Usually you don't start there. We've come from those places. It learned more, evolved, welcomed new information and curiosity. And part of the reason all the left is infighting is because it's kind of a bullshit sniffing contest. It can be kind of stupid and annoying, right? For sure. But the I told you so impulse, now he's characterizing it as that, but people calling out others who are previously for it is fair. It's one thing to say it to people who are not informed in media, who are the receivers of this kind of retail media, commentary sphere. But when it's powerful people, when it's people in media, when it's people who have it, like politicians, people who have positions of power and influence doing it, they deserve to be called out. They deserve to have it thrown in their face. I'm not talking about shitty tax policy that we tried and look at like the brownback thing in Kansas. Google it. We're not talking about some stupid policy failure that messed up a bunch of people's lives and destroyed people. We're used to that. This is mass murder. This is industrial murder. It's the most heinous stuff humans can do to one another. And we're paying for it. We're paying for palaces for Trump. We're paying for universal health care for Israelis. And they're committing all these crimes. A really great interview, as I'm sure you probably saw on Breaking Points with Crystal Ball and Eliza Slotkin. I don't know clips for it right now. So this whole conversation kind of kicked off. I'm just going to scroll. This is a few people writing back. Mike from PA writes, as long as they're willing to stand down from power and support mass trials for the perpetrators of this Holocaust, including Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Agreed. That's where I come down on it. Josh Olson, who used to host a show with Dave Anthony called West Wing Thing, which is a really great podcast. I think all the episodes are still up where they covered West Wing, which is another one of those liberal spells that liberals love to cast on themselves. West Wing is such a right-wing coded, not even coded, but it's such a right-wing show. It's ridiculous. So he was a co-host on that. Good show, West Wing Thing. Writes, of what value are people who are either covering their own racist asses or so fucking stupid it's taken them this long to understand what's happening down there? Because that's what it is. It's a lot of covering their butts. It's a lot of saying, oh, well, I better make a statement and make it seem like I care now that it's something that we cannot unsee. We cannot unsee all these dying, starving people being shot and bombed while they're trying to get food. This squirrel. This account is pretty aggressive in a good way. Tommy, can you please explain in what other context you would dare not recognize a genocide that is recognized as such by all the major human rights organizations, the UN, and many genocide scholars? Can you explain why you only dare do this for Israel's genocide? Well said, squirrel. Mohammed writes, welcome people into the tent. Suck my dick. Dude. Dick has multiple eyes. Dr. Ruth Marshall is kicking against the... Oh, God. Got worse. Fuck all the way off, you complicit fuck. This is you and the fucking pod boys doing reputation laundering, and that is all. You did nothing with your platform to prevent this. You are complicit and you need to apologize and then shut the fuck up, you vile pos. Pos is internet speak for piece of shit. Okay? You're a poff. You're a piece of friend. Tim Barker writes, why don't you force your friend Obama into the tent? Yeah, where the hell is Obama? I think he put out a statement. Oh, we got to stop the murder my friends have all done. These people need to be in prison. Let's go to post engagements just for a quick scroll. I think I might have done one of these. It's a long one. You can read that if you like. Someone posted The Rock. Let's just hear it.
Shut up, bitch! Oh my God!
Okay. Well said, Dwayne. Jesse Kral writes, if you're talking about your dental hygienist, not sure. If you're talking about politicians and media figures who expect to go from making 6 to 7 figures influencing atrocities to making 6 to 7 figures crying over the results and still bullshitting about their causes, absolutely not. Zito writes 1.7K retweets on this one. So this one hit. Waiting until it's absolutely safe when there's nothing to risk and after tens of thousands have been killed and starved to finally say something is such a great sign of moral cowardice that it's unsurprising that the same people would demand respect for their opportunism. Oh, no wonder he got all those retweets. I love that ending. I feel like such a weird in that, but that nails it though. That the demanding respect for them finally saying it, starting a fire and then denying that there's a fire, and then eventually realizing as the fire is about to, the soot's about to stain their face, they go and they fetch a wet wipe. So, to their credit, at least, let me see what I wrote. I did this in the middle of the night. One like. Stopping the Democratic and Republican Party's murder of all those people needs to happen, but those who saw it clearly from the outset and have been raging against it aren't the ones whose tone or attitude needs mediating. Because that's what he's trying to do. Tommy is trying to make us, not that I'm spending my time doing the I told you so thing, which is his phrasing of it, by the way, but maybe he should focus his attention on the people who were for it, not the people who have been pissed and screaming against it for all this time, and how much of this online barfing we do into our phones actually even changes anything. These phones, man. So I followed it up. 0 likes. On its face, those in power who had inside information and who've received money from their genocide partners are of dubious motive and should be treated as such. They've slaughtered hundreds of thousands. They sent bombs, bullets, drones. They provided cover. Gaslit. Bad tweet. Nor is accountability, again, from me, 0 likes. Nor is accountability in the form of them losing elections in 2 or 4 years anything close to sufficient. Sadly, it's like all that might happen, but they need to be put on trial for their complicity in this evil. Even that would be paltry justice. I tweeted, another thought is like a follow-up is like, I know that's not going to happen, but the PodSafe guys should be calling for it. Do you know how much more effective their communications about trying, like, I take Tommy, I believe he wants to stop the murder of all these kids. I've been looking at stuff he's been saying, but he would have a much easier time. Easier is not the right way, and it's not all his fault. Again, just to understand, but these guys are prominent in this world, in the liberals. We need liberals to basically realize how much they are just as genocidal as the Republicans. Because we should have accountability. And if he called for Joe Biden's imprisonment, that would make a lot more waves than him just saying, yes, it's time for them to lose elections, but currently we got to try to stop it. And by the way, if you're pissed about them and you think that they deserve more than them just losing elections, then why are you're the problem. Call for something of real substance. It won't happen, but it'll get the point across more. One of the outfits that was arguing with him is Chapo Trap House, podcast I am supremely jealous of, not just for their great takes or their great voices, but for their gigantic incomes. Their Patreon is just nuts, man. Oh, fucking A. Anyway, this is something that Will Menaker said, and he, because I think Felix is one of the other guys, Matt Christman, who had a stroke, and I think he's only been on air once since. Is someone I used to listen to a ton. I was always really into his shit and his rambling. Then I learned he's autistic, and I was like, well, that checks out. Confirmed. Yeah, so well, glad that he's still alive. I guess their producer Chris Wade found him when on the floor It's fucking scary. It's like when you live alone, man. It's like I sit in here and just think, oh, geez, I hope I'm not wearing something embarrassing when my roommate finds my corpse 4 weeks after the smell starts getting to him, because he's not the type that'll just come barging in. What am I going on? Okay. Chapo had this to say about some of it. They talked about it a bit more, but this is from their episode titled, in case you want to go find it, Memory on YouTube, episode 955, July 28th, 2025, in case you want to go listen to it yourself.
And like, just to explore further, like the nature of like this illusory or somewhat fraudulent shift in establishment opinion about what's going on, is that like, it's similar to the Iraq war, is that like with power and with like the media on your side, you can lie yourself into a war and you can commit like unrestrained atrocities for a good long period of time. But the thing is, like, the ongoing maintenance of sort of consent and the public imagination requires a series and like sort of I don't know, it requires tending to a series of increasingly insane and unbelievable lies.
Yeah.
And like, what the thing is, like, that can't go on forever. And I'm not saying that like once people know the truth, everything will be different. Like, I'm using the example of the Iraq war because like we see a similar effect happen with that, where it's just like everyone in our government and media went along with it for a good 4, maybe 5 years. But like the maintenance of that illusion broke down at a certain point. And then there was this shift where it became okay to sort of like broach the idea that like, hey, this was a disaster, or this was a mistake. Never that we were like intentionally lied into it, but basically like everybody knew that they lied about it, and like, you know, 1 million people got killed, and it was okay that for people to acknowledge that it was a failure and that we never should have done it. And in reality, and like the thing is, I want to talk about accountability in a second, and electoral accountability. There was electoral accountability for that, in that like that's I think a main reason Barack Obama was elected president.
I think when he said 5 years, he was talking about Iraq. It took about 5 years for people to kind of come around to the idea that this was a disaster. Of course, people from my perspective knew ahead of time it was going to be a nightmare. But here we go.
Because the American public had turned against the Iraq war, and they voted for him because he was opposed to it as it was going on, and they thought they would be getting a change in power. Well, what happened is that like the leaders may have changed, like, you know, like, but the thing is, like, all the people who ran the Iraq war and perpetrated it maintained their exact same positions in government. I'm not talking about like Dick Cheney or Donald Rumsfeld. I'm talking about like the people who ran Obama's foreign policy apparatus were not people who were like opposed to the Iraq war. Like Brett McGurk, for instance, was in the Obama administration. Like the people he put in charge of, you know, like David Petraeus. So like there's no electoral accountability if there is not criminal accountability for these people.
In the world after Obama, 2 out of 3 Democratic candidates for president were people who backed the Iraq war. Kamala was the first one to get the nomination who did not.
Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, like Obama appointed Joe Biden his vice president.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton his secretary of state.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't pay any price for supporting Iraq, for murdering all those people, for helping the Republicans destroy and kill all those Iraqi people, torture Iraqi people, destroy so much of that infrastructure, mess things up so badly. 2 out of the 3, like you said, were elevated to president's candidate status.
Right. But the difference with Iraq, I think, is that the sort of very pernicious thing about Iraq to me is that it seemed like, even from the onset, that it had a mechanism built into it for where, you know, if you got buyer's remorse, there was a mistake mechanism built into it where you could retroactively make your support for it. You could characterize it as a mistake that you made because you were just too gung-ho about protecting America, or, you know,
or you believe George W. Bush.
You believe George Bush in the afterglow of 9/11. With this, there was never any built-in, oh, I made a mistake mechanism, because, I mean, I guess it was just, never assumed that Americans would even give a shit about Israel policy, much less reverse their opinions in a seismic movement as they have in the last 5 years. But we're seeing in real time.
Yeah. So I don't have anything to add. Felix and Will. Yeah, but the accountability part of it, which is you could tell that's what I searched for to get to this part because I'd listened to it while I was on my walk. By the way, you're not allowed to pick up bird feathers. I'll go on about that another day. But not that someone stopped me, but okay. But anyway, accountability is what power is all about. As we transition over to our Tell the Truth Cenk stories, as we talk about the documentary, the whole something I've been thinking about a ton, which is why this kind of jumped out at me, this part at least, is that wealthy people, the rich, the powerful, this is the hierarchy, is those at the top get to do things that those at the bottom don't get to do. And I don't mean get as in I want to do a genocide and they get to. That's obviously clumsy. But they're able to do things that hurt people and face no consequences for it. The alleged shooter, who is clearly not the same guy, of the health insurance company executive, brought about something that people reacted to instinctively, which is the presence of justice. People understood intuitively how much harm and how little accountability powerful people who wear suits and fancy shoes and expensive watches and whose children die of overdoses in college at fancy restaurants ever face for all the harm that they cause. There was suddenly the presence of accountability, and that is a type of justice, or that is at least folded into the justice stew that is not available to everybody. So being wealthy, having power, means impunity, means the rules don't apply to you. They get nothing, and this isn't necessarily accountability, but like we get shamed at the bottom for needing help. I've been so poor, I should be on food stamps. I feel ashamed about that. I should have. I feel like an idiot for not doing it. But I feel like, oh, I can't. I don't want to be I don't want to be that guy. That's embarrassing. But all the billions and billions of free stuff that flows to the wealthy, the whole different standard for whether that should be looked down upon. People at the bottom face a whole different set of standards, and that's a slightly different thing than impunity. But that's what power. This is the mapping of power I'm trying to do with my TYT project too, and trying to explain in these kinds of ways. Joe Biden murdered you sit at in a car with your buds, and they tell you to pull over, and they go into a bank. Maybe you don't even know what they're doing, and then they kill somebody and they come out. The law considers you guilty. I'm pretty sure I'm correct about that. In terms of punishment, in terms of what we expect to be held accountable for. You're just as guilty of murder if you're the getaway driver or bank robbery. Right? Am I wrong there? There's probably slight nuances here and there, case by case, maybe, whatever, but I'm pretty sure that's the way it works. And Joe Biden's only accountability that the Pod Save bros want to hold to these dudes is that they lose their elections. When I said Joe Biden, I just mean the establishment, these warmongering assholes. Elisa Slotkin goes on Crystal Ball, Sagar and Jetty show and has to face a few difficult questions and get rescued by her staff. That's the most accountability she'll probably ever face. And then gets dragged on Twitter and social media. That's the accountability she gets for murdering several thousand people, for being complicit in all that, defending it, excusing it, taking money from the people doing it, sending money to the people who gave her money. That's the accountability that they get. A slight social shame, but within this system, that doesn't mean anything. So the only accountability I'm okay with for these people, I mean Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, top officials of the Republican Party, Joe Biden, their spokespeople, Pentagon spokespeople, State Department spokespeople, White House spokespersons, Karine Jean-Pierre, what's her face, Levitt, the current one. Both parties are guilty. All the top officials, military officials, need to be put on trial for war crimes. They're complicit. I don't know if I'd go as far as everybody who voted to send them money, but you could talk me into that. Why do they get away with it with mass murder? Do we really want to be the country that lets them go? I mean, we are the country that lets them go. Because if we were the country that might even hold them accountable, we wouldn't be where we are, which is kind of the point that they're making about Iraq. There was no accountability for anybody. I think one guy went to prison for something, government of some dude, but like, I'm not even sure if that's even. I think that might have been I think that might have been the 2008 financial stuff. There's a guy I'm thinking of. Ugh. So it's really sick. So finally, just to wrap this up, Taylor Lorenz tweeted this. Mehdi Hassan, like I said, or as I was starting to say, to their credit, there's something of a conversation happening online or within the PodSave guys. Mehdi Hassan does a good job. I'm glad to see him getting around. His Jubilee was made a big splash for the stunning fascism, although it shouldn't be surprising, but the racism that was on display towards him in his thing. So we're going to watch this, and then we'll get to the Cenk stuff, because that's going to be super interesting. We're already over an hour. God damn it. At least I can keep it a little bit shorter. Here we go. This is Mehdi arguing with some other dude, but we'll just listen to it.
On Pod Save America Monday, I talked about some positions I'd like to see the Democratic Party take. That meant, my list was like not funding the Israeli military, recognize Palestine as a state, don't take money from AIPAC, some other stuff. And I got a message from a friend.
So these guys want credit for actually listing out stuff that they're okay with in terms of trying to stop this. Unlikely it'll ever happen, but I'm saying they should be calling for the imprisonment of the people who did it. Calling for persecution, prosecution, arresting Benjamin Netanyahu. Meaning like America's I mean, of course, it's not like just because they call for it, it's going to happen. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in terms of how far an argument they're willing to make, it's okay for them to call for some of the mechanical things, especially and these are messaging dudes. This is why the guy was arguing with people about their tone, because they're communications professionals before anything else. Thus, their role in the Obama White House. Thus, their success as, liberal comforting. They're like a weighted blanket for liberals. They're soothing. I really want one of those weighted blankets. I feel like I might do well with one of those.
And a good progressive Democrat who is genuinely hurt, and he said to me, "You are making the Democratic Party tent feel smaller to me." He said, there's room in your new Democratic Party for Zohran Mamdani and, sort of anti-Zionist views. But me, a liberal Zionist, I'm no longer welcome in the Democratic Party as you described it, because I think the U.S. should support Israel. And I guess I'm wondering, what would you say to a liberal Zionist who feels that way, who feels like they're no longer welcome in the kind of party I'm outlining?
So your friend may be a progressive, but he's what's called a PEP, right? He's a progressive except Palestine, because there is this carve out when it comes to liberals and the approach to the Middle East that we want equality, human rights, progressive values, except on this one conflict. And I would say, spare me the self-victimization. I just mentioned earlier to Jeremy, the entire Democratic Party in Congress does not support Palestine. It still supports Israel, even while 8% of Democrats told Gallup this month that they support Israel's actions in Gaza. In Congress, it's about 88% of Democrats. So the actual Democratic Party, the organized party, the leadership, the establishment, the presidential candidates, the senators, the donors, or organizers, the DNC, they are all hardcore still pro-Israel. They are not pro-Palestine. The idea that your friend would say this is a party that welcomes Zohran Mamdani, are you kidding me? Zohran Mamdani has still not been endorsed by Chuck Schumer, has still not been endorsed by Hakeem Jeffries, had Islamophobic abuse thrown at him by Kirsten Gillibrand. Give me a break. If anything, it's the other way around. You have a pro-Palestine candidate, a Muslim immigrant, as the Democratic mayoral nominee, and the party can't even get behind him. Why? Not because of his freeze the rent policies, but because of his Palestine position. So I would say that this kind of wanting to be the victim is great, but it's not true at all. And Israel behaves in the same way. Oh, we're oppressed by everyone. No, you're a nuclear power in the Middle East that just bombed 4 of your neighbors and has kept millions of people under apartheid and occupation for decades and thumbs its nose at international law, the Geneva Conventions, the ICC and the ICJ. So this whole self-victimization stuff, it's all a distraction from the fact that babies are being starved to death in Gaza right now. And if that's not what we're talking about, then sorry, forgive me if I don't accept your progressive credentials.
Well, I just think that it's just too simplistic, Mehdi, and I really respect you, but, you are just simply making this into a black and white issue and not hearing.
Genocide is a black and white issue, Jeremy. Forgive me.
Jeremy, I probably won't. He probably won't forgive Mehdi. I know that's just a colloquial. Yeah, I don't want you in my party, as if I'm to speak. But like, why would we want you to be welcome if you're okay with doing those atrocities to people? I don't want to live near neighbors who like loud music. Go fuck yourself, Tommy Vitor's friend who texted him. So, all right. Well, you guys get the point. Good job, Mehdi Hassan. Support his show, Zateo News Network, or whatever the fuck. Taylor Lorenz does a lot of good work too, by the way. She steps right into the fucking bees' nests all the time. And I should have said hornets' nests because bees are actually quite nice little animals. The ones that don't murder you, at least. So, okay, guys, get ready. Get ready. Strap in. Sip some coffee. Oh yeah, 6:30 p.m. and I'm having coffee. That's how you know this is going to be good. So, okay. All right. Oh God, I gotta lose weight. I'm so fat, my back hurts. Okay. All right. Big news, guys. Big news here in Tell the Truth Cenk headquarters, the home of the documentary Tell the Truth Cenk about the union busting at the Young Turks. I worked at the Young Turks. I was closely involved with starting the union at the Young Turks. I'm making a documentary about it. And that is why Cenk appearing on Jubilee, which is coming up soon, is a huge deal because the teaser just dropped. And it seems that he was confronted about the union busting by somebody. This is a huge, in terms of my story here. If you're brand new to the thing, look in the description you can watch the film. Go to the website, tellthetruthcenk.com for the trailer, for ways to support. It's been a several years long project. It's taken every goddamn bit of my limited mental energy to not go even crazier than I already am. I've really sacrificed a lot to get this done. I'm in a ton of debt. So I need help finishing the film. But my point is that Cenk appearing on Jubilee was an opportunity that I had hoped for. I'd heard about it, and I was like, oh man, I hope the union busting comes up. Because he said, I guess he had recorded his Jubilee. Sam Cedar just did a big Jubilee earlier this year. Mehdi Hassan just did a Jubilee that went viral for all kinds of different reasons here, especially to those of us who pay attention to politics and stuff. Jubilee's a huge channel, 15 million subscribers or something. Their clips go crazy. Kind of surprised this preview didn't go, only got 4 retweets. But this is Jubilee's teaser for the episode that drops on Sunday. And as a person who is very closely involved with this, who is doing a documentary about it, because I did not like that Cenk has refused to tell his audience the truth about why we unionized. We can get into that in a little bit. But, they told their audience that it was his political opponents who started the union, when in fact it was me and my friends. And that's not okay with me. I'm not the type of person that's going to get pushed around like that, going to get disrespected, and then have my story erased, have my friend's story erased. And so that's why I'm making the documentary. So please go give it a watch. Let's watch this. I've not seen this before. I know Vanguard covered it already. We're going to watch their reaction to it too. And we're also going to look at some of the different parts of this story that show you where Cenk is on the union busting. And in terms of what kind of accountability he's faced for it, which is none whatsoever. He's been asked about it a couple of times. He's lied both times. And I'm going to predict that I bet you he will also lie this time. He is going to, we're about to find out. This is just a teaser. So look for more videos from me covering this as it comes out. Obviously, I'm going to have a pretty busy week, hopefully a very busy few weeks, because this could help the documentary gain a lot more attention. I'm desperate for support. I really do need a lot of help. I'm about to move home to Illinois for money reasons. But if it's anything like his previous times he's been asked about it, I'm very confident in predicting that he does anything but be honest and actually give these people the truth. So we'll see. Let's watch it. Let's go bigger screen here. Okay.
We've tried establishment Democrats, complete failures. We've tried establishment Republicans, complete failures. We tried fake populism under Donald Trump, complete failure.
I disagree.
So the only thing we haven't tried is left-wing.
Right now, I want to say the premise for this is one populist versus the uniparty. At least that was the words he used when he said he did the show. And from their description at the top here, it says Cenk Uygur versus Democrats and Republicans. So, as Cenk said, it was 10 Democrats versus 10 Republicans. And he gets to position himself as outside the system. TYT uses union busting law firms. TYT is incorporated in Delaware, which is a tax haven. Lots of corporations are incorporated there. The guy who runs TYT, the number 2 there, is a former health insurance executive. He was a health insurance executive for 12 years. This is all in the film. So TYT is perfectly situated as a corporation within the capitalist system of exploitation and extraction. So he's not an outsider. Went to the same business school as Elon Musk and Donald Trump. But he's rebranded himself as a populist. And yeah, I'll be curious if you think he is when you hear some of the reasons why we started the union at his company. Because he ain't no fucking populist, I'll tell you that.
Populism, you say, don't try it. Go back.
Let's back up a little bit more here. This is a lot of I watch the Cenk stuff closely as I feel an obligation as a guy making a film about this person and about our own story. It's actually about capitalism and leverage and labor and stuff. But, so I feel an obligation to keep an eye out and to track stuff. And a lot of the same sort of hysterical straw manning he does about, oh, you're just trying to say this and that. But anyway, I'm getting too far into it. Let's just start over since I've already fucked. I'm so sorry. Let's go. It's starting over. Union busting is going to come up though. I'll watch it all the way through without reacting, and then we'll play it again.
We've tried establishment Democrats, complete failures. We've tried establishment Republicans, complete failures. We tried fake populism under Donald Trump, complete failure.
I disagree.
So the only thing we haven't tried is left-wing populism. And you say, don't try it. Go back to the establishment Democrats. Are you crazy?
You can't vote Democrat and then say that, well, because they still support the rich and the rich still get all the tax cuts, I'm still going to cast my vote, which is the most powerful political weapon you have, to the very establishment that you're on one hand trying to tear down.
That's just weird to mention guardrails against firing people when you rejected a union at your company and fired somebody for organizing.
Yeah, that is absolutely not true. You could say that if you like.
That is true. Look it up.
Fine. So since you smeared me, let's explain. Claim number 1 is that Democrats and Republicans agree on economic issues and try to divide us and distract us with culture wars. Democrats don't want to pass their agenda. It's a marketing ploy, not a mission. The Republicans only care about the rich, and everything else is a mirage. Media and money control all of politics. Hi, I'm Cenk Uygur. I'm host of the Young Turks. I'm also founder of Just Democrats Wolfpack and Rebellion Pack, where we're trying to bring the country together. And here I am surrounded by 20 Democrats and Republicans, and I'm going to try to bring them together.
Okay. Surrounded. All right. Okay.
We've tried to establish.
Okay. Okay. He said he was smeared. All right. Okay. 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 Break your microphone. I'm down to like my last one that still works. Okay. Okay. I have a lot of powerful and variety of emotions about a lot of this. Let me just get this out of the way. Not that I'm going to freak out, but the problem Cenk has with my project, with my role in this whole story, is that I chose to do it first of all, because you're supposed to just go away. As I said, I worked at TYT. I initiated the second attempt at unionizing TYT, and had secret little meetings with my friends in order to talk. We didn't take any persuasion, but in order to go through the process of secretly starting a union to stop exploitative working practices. I don't know why I always point this out, but I'm sitting in a chair partially where I birthed where TYT union was somewhat birthed. I don't like saying I because it was a group effort, but like I took initiative. Placenta juice from that process is in this seat with a lot of farts. Now that why did I just put it like that? So his theory, because the major rift, I think I just let a thought go. The problem Cenk has with me is that I'm as crazy as I am reasonable. I'm a fucking psycho. You got to be a kind of weirdo to get obsessive enough about something like this to go follow through with as far as I've gone. You can watch it right now. 84 minutes. I set it up. Oh God, we're going to watch the band. Oh, close that. Here we go. 84 minutes of the documentary is currently available. Please watch these. Like, subscribe, comment, and if you're of the means, watch watch the trailer. But go to the GoFundMe. There's a link tree that you can go to. I need money. I need help. I need a lot of help. I've taken on over $30,000 in debt, rent debt, and I'd like to get enough money just to fund enough to pay. I need like 10 or 15 grand to support myself for like 6 months of editing ish. to finish this documentary. It'll end up being about 2 hours. I've got a lot of it done. Fucking Adobe Premiere Pro is $2,600 a year or something like that, or whatever the hell, 60 times 12. Is that right? What is that? It's a lot. I don't have the money. I have a difficult, my income is nil, pretty much. So I've sacrificed to get this far, and I need a rally of help to get me. I'm already doing this part of this video, but like, consider it. Watch the video first. See the editing. I think you'll understand you'll see what it's like when someone who's very determined spends. All right, close that too. 2.5 years making 84 minutes of a video. It took me 2.5 years to make those 84 minutes. So okay, but I'm a little out of my mind, but I'm also as out of my mind as I am reasonable. So in the film, I go out of my way to make Cenk's case for why his campaign, because the backdrop of the story is that the union, although it started 2 years prior, it didn't come forward. When it did come forward, our boss had become a politician. And the story that Cenk and Anna put out through there, and I have it all posted here. We're going to get back to this in a second, but I have it all posted here on Substack. Let's open it up. If you want to go read this yourself, baldontheinside.substack.com. These articles here, Behind the Facade, Why We Unionized at the Young Turks. They're long. They're filled with receipts. This one is actually way too long. Goes on and on about my experience at TYT, a lot of the stuff I did while I worked there. It gets into some of my conceptual theory brain. It's more of a thoughtful piece. There's some anger. But it's a good read. There's also 2 versions, 1 truth, evidence for my claims about the Young Turks. So TYT's version is that his political opponents started the union, that we were manipulated or in on it even into unionizing his company because the union came forward while he was running for Congress. It just so happened that we were 5-ish months, and in truth, the union itself was over 1.5 years in, if you count the first attempt, which you should. So we were 5-ish months into unionizing when Cenk filed his paperwork to become a politician. Okay, so this is all detailed in the film. I don't necessarily want to go down the entire thing here, but this is their first salvo that they put out, indicating some kind of suspicion was afoot, some sort of nefarious activity was down here at the bottom. Is they wrote, the fact that IATSE has failed to respond to TYT, instead opting to issue misleading statements, suggests that there are other motives at play. So there's a huge contention here between someone, myself, who was there, who took initiative himself to deal with this employment conditions that I was facing in order to start a union, and someone who wasn't there, who insists that they know how it happened. Now, they haven't been very forthright because there's a lot of detail to this that they could come forward with if they actually had evidence or they wanted to expand on their theory for why the union started at TYT. But they won't and they can't because it's a lie, because it's bullshit. It's grounded around the fact that IATSE had endorsed Cenk's opponent, as he writes here. They situate their entire theory around this. And as I explain, given the fact that TYT was undergoing a huge amount of, not TYT, it's an easy mistake, Cenk's campaign, which is completely separated from from his company for sure. And actually, that's explored in the film. It goes in the part about talking about ethics and media stuff because they made a big show of it.
This was May of 2022. But hold up, we're missing some critical context about who calls the shots at TYT. For that, let's travel back over 2 years to the very beginning of Cenk's campaign, mid-November 2019. We're talking ethics. Since very few politicians are also daily talk show hosts, Cenk's surprise run for Congress raised legitimate concerns.
Something that's important to me is our credibility here at the Young Turks as a media company.
Cenk assures the audience he's going above and beyond.
When I'm a host on the program, I can't comment on my district or my race. Not only, look, actually, Legally, you can, but I don't want to.
And I don't want you to either, because
That's right.
I think it's important for us to, maintain our credibility and to, remain objective when it comes to reporting the facts.
100% right.
So who decides what airs?
I handed off editorial control of the show to Anna. She already was executive producer of the Young Turks, so in that sense, we were already 90% of the way there. But also, Judith, who's a wonderful head of programming for us, now has editorial control over other parts of the network that are not the Young Turks.
Hey, you got to do the right thing.
We've got to do the right thing.
Even if you don't have to.
Even if we don't have to, we should do the right thing, and we're going to.
Anna assumes her new role with trademark self-assurance.
I have full editorial control on this program now. There's obviously a conflict of interest if Cenk had any editorial control, and he does not. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you a question that's probably going to make you incredibly uncomfortable.
A month later, Cenk goes on the Useful Idiots podcast with Katie Halper and Matt Taibbi. At the time, fellow media titan turned politician Michael Bloomberg had been criticized for his policy forbidding Bloomberg reporters from covering their boss's campaign. Asked about his approach to similar ethical issues, Cenk adopts a contrasting tack.
And I've given over editorial control to Anna for the flagship show, The Young Turks, for the TYT network. And we've told our reporters, you are allowed to cover the campaign, and you're definitely allowed to cover it negatively.
Negatively? Well, gosh, that sounds ethical.
So you cover it any way you like. I mean, I'm super proud of our very, very independent, strong-minded reporters at TYT Investigates that have broken some wonderful stories. So they're free to investigate anyone they like.
So unlike Mike Bloomberg, if one of your people decided to just sort of kick you in the balls at the Young Turks, that'd be fine. That'd be fine, right? They're allowed to do that? Okay.
Yeah.
He welcomes their ball kicks.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
They're pretty tough on folks. So,
Right.
but yes, we're independent media, so no holds barred.
No holds barred, huh? Well, over 3 years later, there has been zero coverage of Cenk's union busting, no correction of the conspiracy lie, nor any mention of the NLRB cases on any TYT show or outlet. Nothing. Zip. Bupkiss. Almost. The only content addressing it was Cenk's duplicitous ratification announcement video and a press release to accompany it written by TYT. That's it. Clearly, some holds were barred. At TYT, the journalistic integrity of the hosts and reporters seems nowhere to be found when it comes to reporting on a story that would make the boss uncomfortable. Silence! And I get it. Compromising your own ethics is simply less stressful than facing the wrath of an all-powerful employer, particularly if the story about said boss is retaliation against a worker for challenging his power. Trashing your credibility is that given that it was a very unusual campaign and that there was a lot of unknowns going on, and they had received some unfair smear from the New York Times in terms of Cenk's interview with David Duke, which was mischaracterized, and it was very clearly a bad faith smear, which they eventually did issue a correction, something Cenk or Anna has not yet done. But with enough help from you guys, we can force them to. They will eventually have to do journalism about a story about their own colleagues. That's what I'm trying to get them to do. That's why the film was called Tell the Truth, Cenk. But given that the campaign was this kind of cacophonous mess, this dramatic thing, Cenk is this big personality, his online activity. He's a different type of candidate than others. He had a media apparatus behind him. He had a private videographer following him around. They were actually making a documentary called Road to Revolution, which they shelved because it became a union busting campaign. That'd be a great film. I really wish they would let me edit it, Cenk. Come on, I'll make a good movie. I'll tell the story accurately. It would make sense that they might be suspicious about a union coming forward, even though I knew the truth, even though it wasn't influenced by the outsiders. But because IATSE, now we were joining 3 different guilds within the IATSE umbrella. IATSE is the International Association of Theatrical Stage Employees. I believe I said that correctly. Or it's Alliance. Something. And they are a union for production and post-production workers in the entertainment and media industries. We were professional production and post-production workers in the entertainment and media industry, which is an online media company based in Los Angeles. I was working for Cenk, as is explained here. Well, let me finish this thought first, though. Because IATSE had endorsed Christy Smith, that is very much a reason, and I'm trying to give them, steel man this, give them some grace, that, okay, that would be a little suspicious. I could see why that might raise an eyebrow, given the circumstances. But the next step is not going public. The next step is fact-checking. Basic journalism ethics 101. Confirm your details before you put out a narrative that's not true. And we're talking about a narrative that was about people that they had worked with, who they would have called friends, who Cenk would have called family, and likes to say, we're a big family. You get that a lot at TYT. Wait till you hear how he was treating his family. Me, I mean, I don't mean his actual family. I'm not talking about that. That's his own. I don't care about that. So they smeared people they knew, and they did it with a story that they did not fact check. And it was the easiest story in the world to fact check. All they had to do was walk across the room and talk to some people that they had known for years. Rarely in a journalist's career does one find a story as easy to fact check as Cenk and Anna had when they were confronted with this suspicious union that had come forward. Man, I'm trying to keep this short. Sorry, I know it's I could go. There's so much other stuff on this podcast, on this channel. Look in the description, go to the playlist if you want to hear. I go on and on and on and on. So you'll get your fill if you've stumbled upon. If this is your jam, you have just hit gold. Okay, and I hope you like my bullshit. Sorry, thanks for putting up with me. So they could have said, "Hey, is this or me?" Because so I was laid off a month before the union came forward. I was laid off on January 7th. The union came forward on February 12th. And but I never gave them any reason to be doubtful of my honesty or integrity. They could have reached out. I honestly, I worked at TYT starting in 2013. I was a paying member before that. And I didn't have a lot of conversations with Cenk. Probably the longest was at a Christmas party, honestly. I appeared on air once with them. I used to do some stuff on air. I did Twitter storms, and I did Friday post games with Dave Kohler, Malcolm Fleschner, Steve-O. I enjoyed doing those. I worked really hard on that. I would do work at home, unpaid stuff, making graphics and little animations and shit. Yeah, I have some stories about that. They gave me shit about whether I was getting paid for appearing on one of their shows. Like the head of production, the director of programming, was giving me crap because she wasn't sure if I was supposed to get paid for the hour and a half that I spent not doing video editing. I was like, are you kidding me? Sorry, is my $21.63 an hour going to sink the company if I get paid to go sit there and be funny with Dave Kohler on one of the Friday post-game shows? Give me a fucking break. Side story. Didn't make me feel real respected on top of the working conditions that drove us to unionize. But just to finish this thought, all they had to do was check the facts. Hey, Hank, when did this union start? We've heard that you're involved in because I would have been the one. Maybe it was weird to talk to people internally. I was no longer in the company. I got laid off the same day. Brooke Thomas, Francis Maxwell, and I think Hassan. Not that he was laid off, but I think they just did a round of like formal layoffs, and it was like 3. And Hassan was. I used to edit some of Hassan's videos, and he's since come forward and said that Cenk stole ad sales from him, and he said that Cenk skirted labor regulations. And he also told Sean O'Brien that Cenk that he desperately needed a union at TYT. I don't know if he used the word desperately. I'm adding that. So I'll grant that the IATSE endorsement is a reason for them to maybe raise an eyebrow. Maybe that, fog of war, intense, but they did not do fact checking, and they haven't corrected the story since. Because they're motivated to not be honest about it. They do not want the truth told. They erased our story. And this is the injustice I'm asking people to help me deal with. It's not just my story got erased. It's everybody's. Just tired of looking at this screenshot here. Let's look at these headlines. So there are 4 articles written that are great starting points. Go to my channel, go to tellthetruthjank.com, scroll down to sources. That's probably your fastest, easiest way to get to the articles. But, go to baldontheinside.substack.com, search for them on Google yourself. Huffington Post, Indies Times, Politico, and New Republic. Cenk is interviewed in 3 of them. I'm interviewed in the New Republic article. Employees from the union were interviewed in all of them, and every single one asked for anonymity out of fear of retaliation because they were afraid that their boss would impose even more material harm on them. Cenk's union busting included a captive audience meeting, which he threw papers and threatened a worker. That's detailed in the Huffington Post article. They withheld raises and bonuses, which led to an NLRB case. Cenk was found in violation of Section 7 of the NLRA. As we will see, look, I have all this detail. This is all my working conditions. It's nuts. I don't even know if I have that notice on this one here. All right, well, here, we'll go through the website to find it here. Click on sources at the top or scroll down, NLRB cases. You can search their site for both of these yourself. Isn't that a cool background, by the way? And click on the NLRB notice. This goes to my Twitter. And you'll see this sheet here, which they mailed to me. In fact, I don't know why I didn't just do this. This is because this is Cenk Uygur violated Section 7 of the NLRA. It's in one of those sentences right up here. I'll scroll on screen. You can see it right here, Section 7. Yet he will tell you that he's not a union buster. I posted this tweet. Credit to Hanzi83. He's the guy who called Cenk and did beat every single progressive show into confronting him about it. So this is the first time Cenk was asked about being a union buster, answering a question, are you a union buster? So first, notice there's the notice to employees. Here's the 4 headlines from those 4 articles, filled with details. I didn't even finish going through the list. They, withholding people's raises and bonuses is a classic union busting tactic. Cenk sent these emails begging his workers not to unionize. This is the union, but on the left here, TYT union themselves were battling publicly for their right to collectively organize, and Cenk was bullying them. Union busting is bullying. It works because it hurts people. Yet, if you ask Cenk if he's a union buster,
are you a union buster?
No, I'm definitely not a union buster.
There's evidence that proves otherwise, though.
What evidence?
Beautiful. Are you? Tellthetruthjank.com for more. It's like a downshift. I don't know, my internet is slow right now or something. So, all right. So Cenk will deny that he's a union buster. I have an article coming up. Look, we're going to react to it. We're going to watch this again. But I have an article coming up that I've been working on. Well, before we get to that, let me just show you. So there's the union busting that the government caught him doing. There's these 4 articles that you should go read. As I detail in this article, 2 versions, 1 truth evidence for my claims about the Young Turks is, I'm making some pretty stark claims about why we started the union. And I have all the proof showing why. I'll use my middle mouse button to scroll it. So these are the emails Cenk sent to unionizing workers. They're really fascinating documents about union busting and the mindset of union busters. I break it down into a lot of detail here and kind of react to different parts of it. I should probably make some videos about these. This part here, where at the top of the email, Cenk says, no one ever raised a single issue, and that we were suddenly engaged in some sort of trench warfare, as if we're evil management that deprives their employees of the basics. By the way, Anna helped them. She's not in charge at TYT. She is executive producer, has a prominent role, but she did signal boost the union busting. She did the conspiracy lie, the slanderous conspiracy lie. So she is, and she did no fact checking either. So she is also should be held accountable. And I would love it to. She blocked me on Twitter. We used to, we weren't like close pals or anything like that, but we always got along fine when I talked to her. I started working at TYT in 2013. I worked there off and on between then and like 2020. Was a paying member before that. I think I already said that. These are tweets that I put out that day. So TYT's version of the story is that outsiders started TYT Union in order to hurt Cenk's run for Congress. He was a bully. He was bullied by Nancy Pelosi, his opponent Christy Smith, and their IATSE minions, and he was a victim of dirty political tricks, and he had no choice but to bust the union in order to fight the establishment. And also, by the way, that narrative hides prevents him from answering the question, which you're about to look at right here. is, why did your workers unionize? It was politics. Nope. Nope, motherfucker. It wasn't. It was exploitative working conditions. It took me 12 months working full-time hours as a video editor before I received a single benefit, before I received a paid day off, or any health insurance whatsoever. 12 months, during which I started a union and helped with my friends who are also interested. They cared about my situation, but my story is not the only reason. All the reasons are disrespect, but there's plenty of other reasons. I really would love a journalist to get a hold of this, because, you know, there's a whole deeper story here. I worked full-time hours. TYT's own threshold for full-time hours is 30. I think out of all those weeks over 14 months, I think maybe 2 of them were technically under 30, meaning like by averaging out 8-hour days. Because I recall one was Francis canceled last minute, or he was changing. So like if there was a production stop, or because I did a lot of regular editing. I did Happy Half Hour with Brett Ehrlich. I actually edited Aggressive Progressive with Jimmy Dore. And I used to be on the Jimmy Dore show in 2016. I've been around this world for a long time. I have a whole history here. And I never expected my TYT journey to end up this. It's always kind of crazy to me when I think about it, which is a lot. I edited main show editing quite a bit. I did some backup for Damage Report, but not a lot. I did a bunch of special projects. I edited a thing called TYT Academy, which TYT, there was a news article about it. That's why I know this number. It's not because of inside information. It's an Axios piece. It's in one of these articles, one of these Substacks. They were paid $500,000, according to this article, for this YouTube-funded journalism academy. And it's almost likely that I might be the only person who ever saw it. These are my hours. Look how much work I've put into this. All those X's are days I would have been paid had I been classified the same as my coworkers. I was sitting next to people who had employee on their paperwork. They got health insurance, bonus participation, and paid days off. And they're sitting next to a guy who's doing the exact same job, whose paperwork says independent contractor, and I'm getting no benefits, no paid, and I'm paid less per hour than everybody else. That's actually a minor detail. I think it's important, but I wouldn't be making a documentary about low pay. $21.63 for professional video editing in Los Angeles for shit that goes on television is pretty fucking low. And with the union, I was hoping to maybe get bumped up to 25. I mean, 40 would be low, but I would have been fine with a few dollars more. But I just wanted to end the fucking disrespect. It felt like they were stealing from me. Every day I went to work feeling like I was being mugged. And the only thing that gave me any sense of hope was that I went out of my way to start talking about unionizing the Young Turks. And by the way, just so you understand, this is going on way too much. God damn it. It's not the entire company. It's only about 15 people. I don't know the composition now. It's been some years, but the original composition of the vote was 9-6. So it's 15 people in the union, and it's like maybe 20 to 25% of the company. I think TOT employs like 70-ish people. It takes like 60 people to carry around Cenk's ego. So, you know, it's a lot. It takes a lot of effort. I asked Cenk for help. Hey, I don't think this is fair. See this sheet here? Notice how the job classification changes? Can I get paid days off? Can I get health insurance? And the guy who tells the camera how brutal and barbaric it is that people don't get health insurance in this country told me no, you can't have health insurance.
I'm going to just read this here, Anna, from a YouTube member, because I want you guys to understand the real life effects of this. Their handle is I smoke and I know things. They say, I'm a disabled mom with 2 still at home. I get Medicare and Medicaid. I get Medicare and Medicaid pays for my premium and co-pays. I barely clear $1,000 a month, so I will now have no insurance. What are you going to do? What are you going to do when you have no insurance? The thing I can't get out of my head is, it's not a twisted ankle, guys. If you get cancer and you don't have insurance, it's a death sentence.
But what we'll do is we'll stop calling you independent contractor. And right around here, near the end of the independent contractor, I'm starting to think about, I was thinking about it for a couple of months, but right around here, I'm starting to like bring it up a little. I've got along great with that team too. It was a really great crew, really, really talented people. I really love those people. That's why it pisses me off that their story was erased. That this guy went out of his way to lie to his audience. And it sounds like, from what I can tell, he's also going to lie to the Jubilee audience. That's fucked up. That's really fucked up. So instead of calling you an independent contractor, Hanky boy, we'll change your status. We'll hire you. You'll do the same job, but we'll call you part-time temporary. Remember, TYT's own threshold is 30 hours. Look at these hours. Look at this. Every workday that says 9, that's because there's like a day off. You know, so those don't count as to normalize under this orange column. Cenk Uygur is the kind of person that can hire you, call you part-time, have you work 40-hour weeks, so he gets to keep your day off money and go to sleep at night, and then have the temerity to sit in front of 15 million people on Jubilee. Again, maybe he turns around and says the truth, but I guarantee you he doesn't. He smeared his own workers publicly in order to help bust this union. So he did actually, and sorry, this is all over the place. He did actually fire somebody during the union busting. He fired the person who he threatened to at the captive audience meeting on February 12th. He fired them on March 4th or 5th, but it was the day after the election loss. So a company, look, I'm trying not to get too deep into it, but they swore that they were going to separate their ethical practice, because so he stopped being CEO during his run for Congress and assigned that to this guy named Jack Gerard. Geez, look at Huffington Post. We're not afraid. So in order to uphold ethical obligations, this is Jack Gerard, the former health insurance executive, who became this acting CEO during the campaign, ostensibly to keep their business practices separated from their political campaign. Otherwise, they risk any appearances or work done through the media companies becoming in-kind contributions, which is in violation of campaign finance laws and stuff. I don't know what the statute of limitations on any of that shit is. This would actually be another one of those things, like a Legal Eagle or some sort of law firm account or law firm YouTube channel would probably have an interesting time digging into. But nevertheless, despite that separation of business decisions and political decisions, they waited until the morning after he lost an election to fire somebody who was forming a union. Now, I didn't say because they were forming a union. I said who was forming a union. So I'm going to guess that the detail Cenk is going to glom onto here. Let's find our guy. Okay, this guy. I need to learn a lot of these Jubilee surrounded cast people are like content creators often, and they have their own online presences. So I'll be very interested to see if any, especially this guy. I mean, this guy is now entered the Tell the Truth Cenk, drama. When we make a narrative dramatization about this whole story, Brad Pitt's going to play this guy. He's also going to play me. And you, too, if you like and subscribe. So what is it? So Cenk says, okay, you smeared me. But here he says...
To tear down. That's just weird to mention guardrails against firing people when you rejected a union at your company and fired somebody for organizing.
Yeah, that is absolutely not true. You could say that if you like.
That is true. Look it up.
Fine. So since you smeared me, let's explain.
Okay. Since you smeared me. I imagine Cenk is a lawyer. He thinks he's very intelligent. He actually even said in the latest Sydney Sweeney video about genes being good or bad or something, that he does have good genes and logical reasoning, which I think was very funny.
Guess what? Sorry to everyone who hates me. I have good genes. Not in terms of attractiveness, but in other regards, right? My logical reasoning is excellent. But it's...
Yeah, super logical, Cenky boy. Starts a business that attracts movement lefties, half of whom are professional storytellers.
No, I don't think Cenk is a good businessman. I think he is both a shitty boss in a lot of ways and a bad businessman. And he wants to be over and across everything, constantly talking. And to be fair, I mean, it's probably better than him trying to run for office again.
Oh, yeah. What a humiliation.
treats them like shit and expects there to be no downsides. Like, the guy uses misclassification to deny people benefits, and he's stunned that they unionized a bunch of the lefty progressive liberals that work there. Not that they have a test, but as I say, if you don't want your workers unionizing, be the Daily Wire. The people who are going to end up working at TYT are going to be people who have liberal, lefty, progressive politics, right? Come on. So if he's going to say he was smeared, I imagine he's reacting to the guy saying you fired someone for unionizing. And then if you want to go read about this event, this article goes into the details of that firing. This is In These Times by Hamilton Nolan, really good writer. Guy does a good Substack, labor reporter. Would love it if he did a follow-up on this story. I imagine that that's what Cenk will set his sights on, because they get into that in this article about the details around that firing, which he waited until the morning after the boss's election loss. And it's an intimidation tactic to try to intimidate everybody else. And to a large degree, the union busting, even though it eventually failed, it took 2 months. It included internal and external pressure campaign because of the media and the nature of this company. The public side of it was very public. TYT Union did a lot of battling. They went out of their way. Okay. I keep going to like Google to look up stuff, but I have it all here written out. So TYT Union Twitter is worth a look. Scroll all the way down. And if you can, it's not that, just go take a pee while you let it scroll. These are statements that they put out as they were battling Cenk publicly in order to try to gain public support for him to recognize the union finally. He did not want this union. This was not because of politics. This was because of ideology and evasion. He was trying to prevent ever having to tell his audience the stuff I am telling you now. If working part-time, if working 40-hour weeks while you're called part-time for zero benefits is not a reason to unionize, I don't know what the fuck is. I don't think you have to be the most extreme lefty to even get your head around that. The disrespect was unbelievable working for this guy. I thought it was pretty clever by using these yellow and green emojis to highlight those parts. So they did an Action Network petition. So he's going to say he's not a union buster when you watch him on Jubilee. So it was straight up union busting. It was written about. Lots of people called him out. There was all kinds of support coming from various quarters trying to get them, their attention. Here's the NLRB stuff. There it is. I knew I had it in one of these. So yeah, these articles I have written here are filled with him being, or with all this detail about this whole thing. I put a lot of work into this project. The union busting emails from Cenk are fascinating, as I've said. So you've heard him already. So it got brought up by that caller. Let's see. What is this one? This is a video here I posted. So I make some videos just for Substack. I had the wrong video going. But I knew it was one of these. So here he is reacting after he gets the call. He hangs up and then he just goes into straight up gaslight mode. How could he possibly be a union buster if there's a union at TYT?
By the way, you're so pro worker, right? Then why is your ex-staff accusing you of being a union buster then?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'll answer all these. Even though, so this is just random.
Are you a union buster?
No, I'm definitely not a union buster. So.
There's evidence that proves otherwise, though.
What evidence? All right, brother. You've had a nice run. Bye-bye. Okay, so, but let me address that, because I know I'm going to get crank calls when you do random.
Put on your gas mask. It's got to get lit.
Callers. And I know that they're going to try to bring up stuff. Wow. Oh, wow. So, guys, we busted the union so hard here that there's a union here. Edward, are you in the union? Yes. Edward's in the union. Look at that. Oh, that's so weird. John, you in the union?
Yes, I am.
Huh. They appear to be entirely unbusted. So, guys, this is a thing that happened 4 years ago, and they.
That's not how it works. Just because you failed at it doesn't mean you didn't try. Same with fishing and arson.
Oh my God, they're the union busters. We had union came in, IATSE. We had negotiations. It was the most lovely, peaceful, amicable negotiations you've ever seen in your life.
Sure, it was.
We have great health care here. We have really good benefits. And then we had a union. So
we started the union because I didn't get any benefits. I know you. If you, I know this is all repetitive, but it's looking for green right up here. Yeah, there you go. Contractor gets no benefits. No benefits. You're looking at a reason to start a union. Oh, Jesus, I think my internet's just. I mean, come on. We have great benefits, he says. All the times you hear him screaming about paid family leave, right in here says where. So leaves of absence. I wasn't allowed to have any paid family leave for 12 months. I did get almost full benefits after 12 months. So it was very close, but it took 12 months. Even under 2 classifications, this applied. Amazing. Let's keep going with this.
And the thing is, everyone has different version of me in their mind, right? Based on whatever crazy crap that they saw online. So people who, I mean, that guy's.
Some people think he's an economic populist from the left. Some people believe that because they watch him and they believe what he says. Those are the people we're trying to reach with this project.
Totally out of control in 1,000 different ways, right? He just wanted to say every negative thing in the world. I still literally don't know which side he's on or what he's for, other than just being angry. And then I thought it was fairly amusing overall. But for people who actually think that we busted a union and there's no union here, yeah, I can see why they'd be angry, but it's not true. And so, but I gave up caring about that stuff because there's literally millions of people who believe terrible things about me that aren't even anywhere near true. So what am I gonna do? Fucking internet, you know what I'm saying? Okay.
Just another internet thing.
Fucking internet.
Just another internet hoax. Fucking internet. How are you gonna know? Fucking internet. So real quick, I want to show you this. Francesca Fiorentini, who I didn't do a ton of work with, but I knew her. She was remote, but much of the time, you know, she was working and I think she was based in San Francisco over some of those years. I think she's in LA now, but she brought my name up when she talked to Cenk in December, and this is how he reacted.
So it doesn't say anything about TYT, that there are these former employees who really, and I just want to, back to the last thing I'm going to say is.
What the fuck, Hank? That is a good interview, though. He kind of loses his mind. Okay, here it is in Twitter. All right, well, there you go. That tells you all you need to know.
Longtime contributors who were editors, like Hank. I remember Hank, and like the fact that, you know, he helped start the TYT union and now has obviously
nothing.
Okay, but I knew Hank was such a great guy, and Emma and Ben are such. I'm just saying. I'm telling you, these are. But okay.
Hank was such a great guy. Like total rage out. Crazy. Freaking wild, man. One more time with the laugh here. Watch this. Hank was such a great guy.
Okay, but I knew Hank was such a great guy, and Emma and Ben are such. I'm just saying.
Look at those eyes. He doesn't like this. This is 2024. So this thing has been going on, man. Good God, please make it stop. Dan and Emma. Sorry, since we're here, let's look at it. Dan from the internet does a show, Power Report. I was on it during our interview. Oh God, this internet is killing me. This is freaking horrible. Oh, I'm not even on my internet. God damn it. All right, internet should be better now. Good. Dan and I talked, and he revealed that they brought him into a one-on-one meeting to ask him about union activity. That's illegal. That's one of those things you're not supposed to do. Does that sound like something the home of progressives would do? Especially one where no union busting happened? Here he is talking about it.
Hassan leaves, some other people I enjoy leave, you leave. I hear about the union things.
February 2020.
I was brought into a meeting because I was suspected of organizing or being a part of organizing it.
When?
And
I need slow down. Tell me every detail, man. This is amazing.
I'm not sure how much I want to talk about this.
I wanted him to give me like a 30-minute and then this and like a beat by beat. Not that he disappointed me, but I was like, oh no, like don't let this moment end. This is great. That was a big deal to hear that because it affirmed that they were doing shady shit even more. I mean, it's yet more evidence, yet more proof, yet more corroboration and testimony. I even double checked with him about the date of it because, if it was after the 12th, the 12th is a critical pivot point because that's when the union formally started its Twitter account and delivered a letter to Cenk. But if it was before the 12th, that means that they were doing it with, it's just a different. That's an important detail whether it was before or after. Still bad either way, but if it's before, it's worse in my opinion.
Okay.
But I will say that after producing a show, I was called into a meeting by someone higher up in the network, and I was asked about if I had heard about these things. And I was kind of like pretty sure I was leaving. And I felt like I was running my limits of pushing this network as left as I could possibly do it as one person who was really involved with it, especially with Hassan gone. And that meeting did it for me.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I have principles about unions and workers' rights. I come from a union family that matters to me. And the idea that I would be, I won't really say like maybe it was an intimidation tactic on paper. I didn't feel intimidated.
It is an intimidation tactic. Emma Vigeland, co-host of the Majority Report, I met her once, mentioned that although she was not employed at TYT at the time, maybe she was. Actually, I'm pretty sure she was still a contributor by this point. Yeah, sorry. Why did I think that? I don't remember when she left, but she revealed that TYT higher-ups communicated with her and asked her to keep the story quiet. And she's expressed some remorse for her choice to keep it quiet. Not that she was in on some big conspiracy, but this is the way power works. This is the way you can be manipulated. Because they had this, IATSE, and this is politics. The politics thing spins this into this giant crazy mess. And there's another part, not from this clip here, but that's where she mentioned she expressed some regret about the union, and I think she even used the word shame. So this isn't not including this to kind of call her out at all. I'm really grateful for her interest and attention to and willingness to confront and talk about it with TYT. And I talked to Sam Cedar on a phone call once, not like on the show. I mean, not like I just got his number, but I would love to get back on Majority Report, and I know their audience would love to hear about this story.
Honestly, I think you can also see it reflected in the way you treat your employees, right? Like with the efforts to bust the union.
Oh my God, the union busting was so gross.
It was. And even at the time, I received a call from somebody high up in the network asking me not to speak publicly about it. I was young. I kind of have regrets about that I should have spoken up a little bit more publicly, but I was also not making too much money and trying not to rock the boat, but it was a part of the decision that I made, to leave.
So you notice that commonality between Dan and Emma, both felt some kind of, I don't want to speak of them necessarily, but some sort of moral violation, some kind of ethical quandary about a company that they were working for that was doing some shady stuff with unions. And I really would love to see the rest of the TYT staff come out. Where's JR? Where's John Idarola? Where's Brett Ehrlich? Where's all those guys speaking up about this? There's never been any reporting about it on TYT. It's just a big, huge cover up. So I put a shit ton of work into all this. And just real quick, I'll preview the article I'm going to publish soon. This is the other time Cenk was asked about the union. This is the Generational Change podcast with Peter Hagar and Jen Perlman. They've renamed it Revolutionary Change podcast now. So it's now called Revolutionary Change. But very friendly interview. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but we'll start with just Peter's question. And just to show you how friendly this was a very gentle toss-up for Cenk. They trust him. And that's why this article is titled "To Their Trusting Faces. Cenk lies about TYT union in friendly interview, smears employees." He then says that we were bullying other workers there. This is disgusting, but he's lying to them. I'm going to bet that we're going to see more of this kind of lie in that Jubilee, although it looks like it was a little way more intense and heated. So, but we'll do Peter's question, then we'll jump ahead a little to Cenk talking about it.
Of people, especially in Los Angeles,
Sorry,
one of the
backing up.
I'm in commercial real estate, and one of the things that I think people on the left have a very big misnomer about, and everyone always wants to bring up the whole unionization effort at TYT. Can you explain to the audience You've been running the Young Turks for 20 years. That's one hell of a long time to be running a small business that became a big business. Can you share with the audience a little bit of what it's like to be in free market America and the pressures that come with employing dozens of people, especially in Los Angeles, one of the most expensive markets in the country, all the things that you've had to do over the years? Because I don't think people truly understand. I'm not, giving a blank slate here, but I don't think people truly recognize the amount of pressure that goes into running the operation that you run on a day-to-day basis.
Oh yeah, I mean, digital media.
You can't get much gentler than that. I mean, that's giving birth on your knees in a bathtub kind of gentleness. Why did I have to make it super weird and gross? Fuck. Sorry. But I mean, that's the best way to do it, isn't it? I don't know. What the fuck, man? What's wrong with me? Talk about a toss-up. And I'm not saying this to call it Peter. They trust this guy. He doesn't know that they're lying. That's kind of what the whole film was about. Him taking advantage of people. He took advantage of you if you were a fan of TYT back then. He took advantage of your trust. And then he goes on about the media industry and stuff. But so let's jump ahead. I even put a little timer on screen to help. We'll just Substack player. Just not fucking. Sorry, I'm used to YouTube. Come on.
Most of the unionizing, there's this misnomer out there that our enemies push out there. They crack me up. So they back when I was running for office.
I love that they crack me up because that's the Francesca laugh moment.
Ben are such. I'm just saying.
That's the guy who actually is not. I don't think he's having fun laughter or being cracked up by it. That's him being very angry, but not wanting to say that because that would draw attention. He's trying to pretend that he's unbothered by it, but of course he's very bothered by it. And all that's being demanded is that he does the right thing, which is tell the truth. Be honest about it. Hold this up. I want to see this in Cenk's hand on TYT. I want to see Cenk hold this up to his camera. They have a copy. I'll be glad to make a copy and send him this one. Put this on camera and say that I violated Section 7 of the NLRA. This was found in 2022 by the government after the NLRB cases generated by my union busting. And the reasons my workers started a union is because of exploitative working conditions, particularly that I had somebody classified part-time while they worked 40-hour weeks for zero benefits. Because the story that TYT's audience has been told is the story he's about to tell them. And it's real bullshitty. I mean, like, it doesn't make any sense if you think about it. Just say yes to the union and you don't fall for the trap. It would have been the bright spot of his campaign. But the story he wants his audience to believe is that Nancy Pelosi and her political minions started the union at the Young Turks.
Just like Jen was in 2000.
Sorry, I said he was running for office just like Jen was. So like I said, she ran for Congress. Yeah, I would love their support for the project. I'm not trying to call them out, but they are going to be in the documentary because it's about the way the way misinformation works. Yeah.
Unions were on the side of my Democratic establishment supporter, and that's unfortunate. And unfortunately, in the past, the unions generally tended to support more pro-corporate Democrats, which never made any sense. It's totally irrational. Thank God now Sean Fain, Sean O'Brien are beginning to change that, and the unions have a different attitude now, which I love. But back then, IATSE was a union that was supporting Christy Smith in that race, and they were actually the main union that were knocking on doors, etc. And then right in the middle of that campaign, at its most heated moment, we were about to have a debate finally with Christy Smith. This story popped up that TYT was going to be unionized, and I never heard of it. And I thought that they were,
why would we have told them? Why would we have included the guy whose horrible bossing we were trying to stop in our union to stop his horrible bossing? That's why he had never heard of it. But he's also kind of lying there because Dan said that he was called into the union stuff before the meeting. Like, all union drives they become more leaky. The probability of them becoming leaky goes up as the bargaining unit expands. Inevitably, management's going to probably catch wind of rumors, and that's just how it works. There's no way to kind of avoid that necessarily, But we were very careful as the core unit of it, as we took great care to not have conversations on company property or in company resources and stuff, besides little like whispery type trusting stuff, So like, he probably had heard of it before, but he definitely didn't include him in any of our communications about it. So yeah, it's kind of just nuts that that he's doing all this and lying to everybody. So more about that to come. Let's watch the Jubilee thing again. Oh no, we got Vanguard to react. This is great. Sorry. Fuck, this went too long. We'll try to end it at 2.5 hours. I really wanted to try to like whip through this in an hour and a half, but honestly, 2.5 is a pretty short podcast for me. So I'll edit down like a short version of this too for Torchlighter. So okay, Vanguard brought it up. I missed this somehow. I usually catch their streams. And so otherwise I would have been in their chat saying shit because I've been on Vanguard 3 times, I think, currently, and they've been really great in terms of showing some interest in this project and helping it get some attention. As you know, a lot of TYT refugees are over there who are now former TYT fans or Vanguard fans now. Let's just refresh. It was at 6.8K in views, just out of curiosity. 23K in 5 hours. Good for you. So let's start the video. Probably get an ad. These fucking ads. I just wish they were more predictable so they wouldn't. Okay, great. Okay, so they start with the guy bringing it up right away. That's good. Their thumbnail is so funny. Okay.
Rails against firing people when you rejected a union at your company and fired somebody for organizing.
Yeah, that is absolutely not true. You can say that if you like.
That is true. Look it up.
Fine. So since you
Boom.
Let's explain. Claim
That
number
guy
one
watches
is
the
that
Vanguard.
Democrats and Republicans agree on economic issues.
Nice. Nice.
Also, shout out to AC Poll. Hey guys, I agree with you on Culkin. You see Cenk's trailer on Jubilee. He's getting cooked for union busting, then catching feelings from the jump. So actually, we take a quick look at this. It got posted on Twitter a second ago. 100%.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Shout out to you, AC Poll. Thanks for letting us know.
I was watching the stream and I would have, but I did cut it. I don't necessarily catch every minute, but I generally kind of, yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's see what
know about that. Really glad that we're going to have the opportunity to react to this because Zach and I are going to be out of town. We'll probably still be able to go live a couple times at least, but yeah, this is good to react to real quick.
We've tried establishment Democrats, complete failures. We've tried establishment Republicans, complete failures. We tried fake populism under Donald Trump, complete failure.
I disagree.
So
You
the only
say-
thing we haven't tried is left-wing populism. And
you
you
say-
say, don't try it. Go
No,
back
no,
to
no.
the establishment Democrats. Are you crazy?
You can't vote Democrat and then say that, well, because they still support the rich and the rich still get all the tax cuts, I'm still going to cast my vote, which is the most powerful political weapon you have, to the very establishment that you're on one hand trying to tear down.
That's just weird to
Okay.
mention guardrails against firing people when you rejected a union at your company and fired somebody for organizing.
Yeah, that is absolutely not true. You can say that if you like.
That is true. Look it up.
Fine. So since you
Boom.
Let's explain. Claim
That
number
guy
one
watches
is
the
that
Vanguard.
Democrats and Republicans agree on economic issues and try to divide us and distract us with culture wars. Democrats don't want to pass their agenda. It's a marketing ploy, not a mission. The Republicans only care about the rich and everything.
Cenk knows a lot about marketing ploys. Okay, that's for sure. Trust me. Take it from me. I worked there off and on between 2013 and 2020. Trust me.
Everything else is a mirage. Media and money control all of politics. Hi, I'm Cenk Uygur. I'm host of the Young Turks. I'm also founder of Just Democrats Wolfpack and Rebellion Pack, where we're trying to bring the country together. And
Rebellion Pack was originally named Cenk for America. You can find the change of name forms on the FEC website. And or no, Cenk for Congress. I'm sorry. Rebellion Pack, the pack that he used to run for Congress became Rebellion Pack.
here I am surrounded by 20 Democrats and Republicans, and I'm going to try to bring them together.
LOL. It doesn't seem nearly as unhinged as the Mehdi Hassan Jubilee. I didn't see anyone be like, go back to fucking Turkey, you fucking immigrant, or anything like that. So I'm glad to see that. But it is pretty funny to hear Cenk called out on the union busting thing. Obviously, it's crazy that Cenk keeps lying about that and gaslighting people. You can literally look it up. There are literal articles written about this. You don't even have to rely on the Vanguard. You don't even have to rely on Hank, who fucking used to work for Cenk and is making an entire documentary about this. You can literally read actual articles that outline this in scrupulous fashion. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, let's just try it out. This guy says Google it. Let's Google Cenk Uygur union busted, right?
There's a Politico article inside the union. That's a great article. It's genuinely fucking. Yeah. It's honestly terrifying if you read this article to realize just how intense and aggressively anti-union Cenk was.
Yep. So progressive firebrand Cenk Uygur, the CEO, put intense pressure on staffers not to unionize. So we'll go ahead and link to this in the chat. You guys already know if you're listening to this show, but apparently that guy does too. And that's the contribution we've made to the internet, everybody. The Vanguard is known for one thing, and that's taking down the Young Turks.
Yep, 100%. And in addition to reading that article, you guys should definitely check out the first part of Tell the Truth, Cenk, which is a documentary edited and directed by our friend Hank, who's often in the chat. Winners and Losers is his name in chat. And that documentary, you know, maybe you don't like Politico, you know, it's an establishment rag or something. Hank literally lived this, and his documentary includes some just insane examples of behind the scenes union busting and attempted union busting. Luckily, eventually the union, succeeded, but not without Cenk trying everything in his power to stop it.
Yeah, and here's a clear example right here. In another email, Uyghur sent to staffers before their vote began, right? So this is manipulating people and intimidating them before they cast a union vote. This week, he again urged his employees to vote no, using arguments that several staffers characterized as typical anti-union talking points often deployed by Republicans. Right. And then he says there's no magic that creates more money by having a union, especially at a company that does not yet.
Well, classifying your employee as an independent contractor or as an employee who is called part-time, that's a great way to create some magic money. That's a great way to squeeze a little extra blood out of the rock. You saw these numbers. One of these up here, these fucking tall, stupid articles. Like thousands of dollars. That's just day off. 20 days unpaid. Like $3,400. Where's my money? I consider that my money. I earned that money.
Make a profit. This is after Cenk had accepted.
I hope Cenk spent it on PlayStation 5 controllers. They're like $75. Everybody got a lot of them.
Over $20 million in fundraising. Okay, I believe it was a Series A, right? It was official venture capital funding. It was led by Jeffrey Katzenberg. You guys can read all about it. He had that insane cash infusion, and what he wanted to do was instead spend that money not on taking care of his employees, not on making contracted employees full-time employees, not by giving people better health insurance, not by expanding what he could offer his employees, but so that he could invest it all in YouTube TV and upgrading the way that they broadcast and having his fingers in more honeypots that would fucking disappear and, go down the drain.
100%. Well, I'm glad we were able to react to that. I'm down to, wrap this up so we can cut the clip, get that out before anyone else does. But
Absolutely.
Got a couple more super chats to get through
so
real quick.
fast
Shout
on
out to
that
UAC
shit.
Poll.
Hey guys, agree with you on Culkin. Oh wait, and yeah, we've reacted
Let's
to
just
this. So
watch
shout
a
out
little
to
bit
you.
more,
And
see
one
what
more,
they
you
get
said
into.
Cabela's for the win. That's
Is Sarah that
my
flush.
They really went quick.
Other
I think they
day,
used
too.
DaVinci. I gotta teach them a
that-
couple of. Not that I would have saved it. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna start making tutorials and stuff too as part of my effort to try to pull myself together enough to be able to live on my own. It's also not. This stuff is stressful for me. My beard fell out. I know I say it a lot, but I've been in a very difficult and hard, challenging mental environment. I've been very fortunate to have a roommate that's been super patient, but I can't, and a little bit of help from my dad in terms of helping me get some food money. But it's a bad time for me. It's not like if Cenk ever does talk about my situation or something, he'll probably try to make it seem like I'm doing this for the cash or for the money. And I can absolutely unavail you of that notion. This is a quest for justice. The guy lied about me. The guy lied to his audience about my friends. The guy disrespected every single person who he has spoken to. And now, as we've seen, it looks like he's going to lie to every single person in the Jubilee audience too. He's probably going to parse out the firing somebody for the unionizing thing, because he can claim, because they make some case in these Times article that it was about the person's workplace abuses, but these types of things work like that. He's not just going to tell Hamilton Nolan that he did it because the guy was part of the union busting campaign. If that was the case, why wait till the morning after the election loss to fire the person from the bargaining unit, from the union organizing group? Everybody knows how intimidating that is. And then they continue to do the union busting for another month after he lost the campaign. It's all detailed in the documentary, which you should absolutely go watch. It's very good.
On February 12, 2020, a group of workers at the Young Turks came forward with a union.
This Twitter page pops up out of nowhere,
Little
right?
bird.
And it's TYT Union.
They'd used card check, an election process in which 50%, I mean, if 50, little help, Bernie.
See, it's fun. When is a documentarian voice guy messes up in the first 17 seconds? That's kind of a fun way to do a documentary, don't you think? Like, why would you use that take? Because we had Bernie flying in. Bernie's on the genocide stuff is driving me nuts. Come on, Bernie, fucking coward. The hell, man.
50% of workers in a bargaining unit plus one sign a card saying they want to join a union, they will have a union. End of discussion. End of discussion.
End of discussion.
Fine. End of relationship.
After 9 days of silence, the company formally rejected voluntary recognition, saying they were prepared to voluntarily recognize the union, but only after a second election was conducted on terms more favorable to the company. While they wanted people to believe they were protecting the democratic will of the workers, it was in fact, as labor journalist Sarah Jones pointed out, classic union busting. Their statement was, put another way, total bullshit. What followed was a period of union busting that seemed right out of the union busting playbook. Every single tactic was a tried and true technique for disrupting solidarity, save one: publicly smearing the workers' integrity, intelligence, and motivations by accusing them of being in a conspiracy with Cenk Uyghur's political opponent. I didn't misspeak. They accused their own work.
Now, should I have made his tongue wiggle? I made his eyes move, but I could have made his tongue wiggle. I think that would have been distracting. See, Ken Burns and Michael Moore and I must make these kinds of decisions with our films.
Workers of being part of a plot to disrupt Cenk Uygur's political ambitions. What makes this unique is that most CEOs desperate...
Literally no reason why Rubin Report, I focus on it, other than it's just random and funny. But I'm in that picture. That's me. Like that little, all that pacing is very deliberate, obviously. Everything's deliberate. Here's one frame. Which button does one frame? God damn it. There we go. That's Anna Kasparian on the Nomiki Konst interview. It's fascinating. She air quotes the phrase union busting. Yeah, see, there's me, that YouTube space, LA. That's why I was much thinner back then, and I always hated how I looked, and then I'd see photos of myself back then, and I go, man, I could have gotten laid so much more. What the fuck? Yeah, look at me now. God damn it, I look like something that divers find at the bottom of a river. That's how I'm feeling these days. I really got to get it together, but yeah.
What makes this unique is that most CEOs desperate to avoid a union are not talk show host politicians like Cenk Uygur. So this tactic stands out and is the subject of this video. The other tactics, all documented in these 4 articles, none of which the company has refuted, might seem so familiar because, as NLRB filings would later reveal, the Young Turks hired 2 anti-worker management side law and consultancy firms. Since the home of progressives is largely member-funded, it stands to reason that the audience deserves to know how much they spent on union busting, if any. How much member money did TYT send to these anti-worker law firms? Do they even have a right to know? Perhaps not. Shh. Best not talk about it. 18 months later, Cenk Uygur described his own union busting as merely a bumpy start.
Our relationship got off to a bumpy start in the beginning.
So the joke there, the finger with the dishonesty horn, that's my Hank, the blue shirt, the hand. You see the character. I'm wondering if anybody's ever noticed that I have to have the most monstrous hand to hold a can like that and have the finger come on. Like I Ken Burns, Michael Moore, Werner Herzog, and somebody. We all know what it's like being all those other filmmakers. And it does push the yellow button down, by the way. Yellow button away.
He almost succeeded in denying his workers, the very people on whose time, talent, and labor his career is built, their right to collectively organize. But after a tense few months, a second election...
That's from the Politico article. They called it surprisingly brutal campaign. That's what Zach was referring to.
...was held, and bravo, a new union was born. After 18 months of negotiation, a contract was ratified. The union was official.
We'll stop soon.
Congratulations to my friends and comrades. Time for coffee cake.
I really want to revamp this little animation. I think it's fine. It's kind of cute. There's no reason to have the squirrel. I did draw the squirrel and animate the squirrel. It's made out of rectangles. I thought it'd just be kind of fun to have like we're distracted by the coffee cake, or we're distracted by our celebration, and yet a local woodland animal is making the most of the opportunity by us being distracted. So like the elbows are a little wonky in the animation, but I put so many, there's like a whole sequence in the second part, the middle 38 minutes with Jimmy Dore and Cenk that took me like a month, almost over a month to make. It's like the same fucking 3-minute chunk that, it's so much time went into this. Okay, I'll pause this. That's me. That's Jimmy. That's Steve. That guy. His name is Steve. This was when TYT was at the current TV studio, which is like the 2013, 2014 time when I worked there, and I was also there for the transition to the studio after that. So yeah, that's me. I just remember.
I'm Hank. I worked at TYT as well.
That's me on the post-game show with
Hi, I'm Hank. I worked at TYT.
Steve and Malcolm. I normally did it with Dave. Dave and I were close pals. Miss you, Dave. Your silence is fucking humiliating, Dave. You should speak up. You know exactly what happened. But I do miss Dave. I love Dave. Great guy. I really liked Dave a lot, actually. He's one of the bright spots about my trip, my time in LA. And I really had a lot of fun doing it with him because he was such a square. And him being uncomfortable was very funny and a good foil for or whatever the fuck. I can be kind of annoying. People find me like, look how handsome I was. Look at that perfect skull. Just a great skull. God damn it.
As well as for the Jimmy Dore show in various...
That's Jimmy Dore's hand. That's Jimmy Dore's studio right there.
Iterations over the years.
The joke there is I'm pulling something out of my belly button and smelling it. Let's watch.
I worked at TYT as well as for the Jimmy Dore show.
We'll go frame by frame. Yeah, you see it happens very fast because I had my hand under my hoodie. See? I remember when we filmed this because we did 2 takes, and another one was like me sniffing my armpit or something, but I was like, I want to pull something on my belly button and then smell it. So this is me while Jimmy's giving a thing, and then I react to what I pulled out of my belly button. This is called improv, by the way, meaning it's a prop. It's imaginary belly button stink. I didn't actually stick my fingers in there deep, although I would do that. Who wouldn't? Who hasn't? You ever smell?
Iterations of...
Watch, here we go. Watch. This is just great acting.
Over the years, I was a long time...
And then you look at it. That's what you don't go, oh, you go, and then you look at it.
Paying member before...
That's when I remember that.
Before I began working for the company in 2013.
Blocking out the belly button. Brilliant. Isn't it brilliant? Come on. What if it wasn't a belly button? What if it was a third nipple? No, he doesn't. It's not true. It's a regular belly button.
As a video editor and lizard massager, I was on the ground.
That's me with my boyfriend, Marijuana. Loved doing this. I got to do that on screen a bunch, or in that little like pre-roll sort of preview video. And I'd say credit to TYT management. Let me just say something positive. They let Marijuana stay there for quite a long time. A lot of companies wouldn't do that. Workers took a lot of pride. I was part of the little crew. I wasn't there when they found him, so I wasn't part of like building the structure, but I got involved with helping them out. You'll notice in my other videos at the Shrimp Squad, I used to work in the pet industry. I used to do fish tanks in a career before the Young Turks because I'm an old man. I'm in my 40s. So I ran an aquarium service. So I sort of had a way with moist boxes. Let's just put it that way. And so I got involved with helping out. They had some bugs flying around that we would get. We had, there's all kinds of little nuances. And what a good boy. Marijuana is now in some refuge somewhere. I don't know. I actually think that'd be a wonderful like day trip to organize one of these years to go visit Marijuana. We all want to see him. Everybody misses him, I'm sure, and it'd be fun to see if he recognizes us. I bet they do. You know, we don't give enough credit to animals and their memories. I bet that he could go for another old Hank massage.
Ground floor of this.
There's a part I want to stop at that I'm trying to wait for.
Our efforts began in early summer of 2019, away from the watchful eyes of managers, of course, eventually leading to the first in-person meeting with the IATSE representatives at my apartment one day before work. During that meeting, we felt the long, absent presence of hope.
See, I don't like the way those two shots connect, the zooming and it's just it's not matched quite well enough. I didn't draw the artwork wide enough to get it the way I wanted it after watching it a bunch of times, but you kind of just got to go with what you get. It's fine. It's not bad, but like I like to do velocity matching so that the speed of one zoom is the same as the speed of the cut after it cuts. So like I would like to fix that in the final version. This is a very small detail. If I don't ever fix it, it'll be fine. You know, so little things like that are stuff that kind of bugs me. You know, but I drew everything that you've seen in these is all drawn on a computer, either using Photoshop and the mouse or my drawing tablet. Most of this is Photoshop mouse stuff.
And the possibility of one day being respected by our employer. Solidarity was becoming action. It was glorious.
So the sweatpants, a little bit of early feedback I got was, hey, it might be kind of creepy and weird that you're just standing there in your underwear. Because I had this character from Suck Professor, this Hank guy, as you saw in all the Suck Professor videos. I closed that window. But I just drew him like a while back, and I just drew underwear and then pants and feet and shoes. And it was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Maybe those are his pants. Maybe he just has realistic pants. Maybe he's from another planet. He's a cartoon. We don't know. People always found it kind of funny and weird. It symbolizes my vulnerability, the way I am, kind of, in a sense, a little bit of that innocence thing, but it is creepy. So I took the feedback and I said, you know, I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. That would be weird to answer the door wearing underwear. And luckily people do generally think that's underwear, not a diaper. But you know, and so instead I fixed it following the feedback, and I made it do this.
Glorious.
So he reaches down and pulls up sweatpants, but this makes the whole thing creepier, because what this means is that he's got his sweatpants bunched up down around his ankles while he's standing there. This means that before this shot, my character pushed the sweatpants down or walks around the apartment with his pants around his ankles, which we've all done. We all know, everybody knows how difficult that is. No human can escape your pants around the ankles, which actually, side note, somebody explained this about the zombie genre, is that all those zombies, as they all get skinny, they don't get fatter, they all lose weight and get skinny. All of them should just be tripping around their pants. They're, you know, maybe eventually crawling out of their pants, I suppose, but there's no way a zombie wearing pants. Don't trust that show. Tell the truth, zombies. That's a great argument, though. When someone said that, I was like, amazing. Unless somebody goes around and tightens up their belt, which would be like an interesting job. But that's what I like about this fix, is that it's funny to me that he's now wearing, because of the fix to pull the sweatpants up, he's got those sweatpants. They're down there around his ankles.
As insiders, we knew Cenk wouldn't like the challenge to his power,
Oh, no,
but
union!
nobody expected the guy who built a career telling a camera he supported worker rights to reject a union.
Here, I like this shot.
Refusing was a total surprise, but the conspiracy charges were simply beyond imagination. All right, come on, let's hop into our 2012 Prius with leather seats and travel back to the day it all hit the fan. February 21st, 2020.
I love that. I love that. I love the way that raps. You hear the Willy Wonka music. Ding, ding, ding. Let's go back 10 seconds.
Prius with leather seats and travel back.
No, more than that. 10 more. I did a bunch of effort to try to match up Gene Wilder's mouth right here. It doesn't quite fit, and it's I was wasting time being like, I wanted his O shape to fit precisely, but I think it's fine. I obviously made a choice at some point, but I love that the way that I fold into that part of the story with the Willy Wonka stuff. Yes, I'm just praising myself here. I'm also seeing flaws that I will not tell you about, but I think this is a really well edited thing. If I really hope that people watch it and they go, oh my God, it's 46 minutes of the film, but it did not feel like 45 minutes. It's a gigantic request to ask somebody to watch a 45-minute video, 46-minute video. And I'm very confident, of course, not for everybody, but I'm very confident that it does not feel that much. It might feel long, it's long, but it holds your attention. And my hope, and this is something I want to be true of this movie as well as everything I do after this, because partly what I'm asking for people to do is support my project here to help a guy out, and that you're investing is not the quite right word necessarily here, but that you see potential in the next films that I make, because this is what I'm good at. And with my autistic sensitivities, with my work record, in other words, nobody's going to hire a guy who has a documentary called Tell the Truth, Former Employer. I can do stuff on my own, and I can make use of this skill. And I'm really just asking people to consider that that's also part of what we're doing with this project, is getting me on the other side of it, because this has not been good for my health, man. It's been fucking horrible. I'm only alive because of my roommate and my dad. So they've held my shitty, stupid ass up, and Cenk is, it's not okay that Cenk gets away with lying to everybody about this. It's not okay that he got to erase his workers' story. It's not okay that he got to do the injustice of the employment conditions that drove us to unionize, and then the bullying that he's desperate to avoid any accountability for. So at least he's already squirming. At least Jubilee made him squirm. So we've got Hansi, we've got generational change, even though that was a friendly thing. We got Francesca brought up my name. This is out of order. Hansi, Francesca, generational, revolutionary change, and now we got Jubilee. Who's going to be next? Kyle Kalinske? He's in the film. Joe Rogan? He's in the film. Ken Burns? Not in the film. I should have tilted my head the other way. Not in the film. One more time through this and then we'll be done.
Refusing was a total surprise, but the conspiracy charges were simply beyond imagination. All right, come on, let's hop into our 2012 Prius with leather seats and travel back to the day it all hit the fan. February 21st, 2020.
Now we're in it.
The first cell,
as I was saying, the thing I want to accomplish or feeling of is with a film that I make or one of these type of things is I want people to trust my story. Like I want it to, I'm talking now, not necessarily as a pissed off leftist in a trillion universe sized rage, trying to call upon the forces of solidarity to demand justice from a capitalist. This is more the aspiring artist, and there's some ego here too, but I want it to be like you're on a chocolate river. Just you're in Hank's chocolate river. Welcome to the ride. And yes, if you extend that metaphor to the Willy Wonka universe, you'll probably end up dead or somehow horrible. It's a bad metaphor, but you're on the chocolate river. Doesn't chocolate river sound nice? In other words, I want it to feel like I don't care what story I'm really watching. I mean, I'm going to give you interesting stuff, but this guy tells a story in a way that I trust that he's taking me somewhere, and it's going to have some curves, and I can't always predict it, but it's a safe because I'm in this immaculately beautiful chocolate boat, and we get to sip on candy out of candy straws and then eat the cup, and then you can pick a flower and eat the flower. But I, for some reason, chocolate river is the operative phrase here that I'm playing around with, because you're just, let me take you on the chocolate river ride, okay? Go click on the goddamn film and watch it. If you're inspired to pay and help me out, I have so much debt and I just need to finish it. I got to get this wretched baby out of my womb. And we're going to see more times, more chances. Like something tells me we're going to see this guy on my podcast one of these days. I don't know why. I just have a feeling. Let's just call that another prediction. That Cenk is going to bullshit and lie and gaslight and pretend like he's the victim in this story when he's the one who did the bullying. He's the one who went out of his way to hurt his own workers, because union busting only works because it hurts people. It causes psychological and material stress and harm. If it didn't hurt people, it wouldn't be used by the bosses. They wouldn't invest in it. They wouldn't have these expensive union busting law firms that they hire. Cenk hired 2 of them. So we're going to see more meltdowns, more of this, and it's amazing that it's going to be on Jubilee here pretty soon because I hope it draws a lot of attention. And you know, let's try to make this one of the center points of this whole cycle of TYT Cenk getting called out of Jubilee stuff, because I'm sure there'll be other interesting moments from this whole thing too. Let's watch it one more time, and I'll say goodbye.
It's firing people when you rejected a union at your company and fired somebody for organizing.
Yeah, that is absolutely not true. You could say that if you like.
That is true. Look it up.
Fine. So since you smeared me, let's explain.
Actually, I think I saw that guy on the Michael Burns podcast. The guy used to do Wisecrack. I think he had that guy on to interview him.
You could say that if you like.
They get the.
It's true. Look it up.
Look, he looked at the camera. Sorry, I just got to go back.
And fired somebody for organizing.
Yeah, that is absolutely not true. You could say that if you like.
That is true.
That is true. Look it up. See, he knows where the cameras are. This is great. And then, fine, since you smeared me, let's have a conversation about who smeared who. Cenk. Cenk has to prove that we lied to those journalists in the articles. Cenk has to prove that we fabricated the emails that prove that we had communication with IATSE, both during the second attempt and during the first attempt, which started 18 months before Cenk filed his papers to run for Congress. Almost 2 years before the union came forward. Cenk smeared his own workers. Cenk went out of his way to smear his own workers, and Anna Kasparian fucking helped him.
Look it up.
Fine. So since you smeared me, let's explain. Claim number one is that.
Explain. Let's hear it. So, all right, guys. I'm just repeating myself. Thanks for putting up with this long one. Of course, it was going to be a long one. The part now I got to edit the fucking long one. If I could just keep this to an hour, I'd be able to do it once. Okay, but I got to get this one done quickly. And I hope you're hanging in there. I got a next podcast will be a guest, actually. I'm very excited it's I don't know why I'm teasing. Left of the Box, Sandy Lovis joined me for an interesting conversation. She's working on a TYT video that I also hope that you'll end up watching. She's not done yet, but I know that she's put a lot of work into that, and so we'll be really glad to take a look at it. I think she's got some interesting insights, and she was a former contributor to TYT, to Rebel HQ. So look for that in the next episode on Winners and Losers. Go follow Torchlighter, please. Check out other stuff there. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for your support. And I know I keep begging for money. Obviously, that's great, but just a nice word. Help spread a little bit. Keep in mind, I think eventually Cenk's going to have to be confronted by someone who actually has the information at hand that he cannot turn down. How could he say, it's like if I lied to you about what you did, that's what I'm doing here. When I say he lied about the union, it's because he lied about exactly myself and my friends. He doesn't get to have an opinion about how the union started. So, but he's desperate to hide. He's desperate to avoid because he's a coward. In other words, he's a capitalist. So, yeah. All right. Good. Thank you, guys. Bye now. See you later. Bye.